across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to the Afternoon Empire right here on Talk. I'm Ian Collins. Oh, no. Wait a minute. I'm not, am I? I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, standing in for the excellent Mr. Collins. And I'll be with you all the way to 4 o'clock. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. Get stuck in, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, December the 18th. Here's what's coming up. Should anyone ever be sent to jail for posting hurty words on Twitter? I only ask because after the clearly disproportionate prison sentences handed out for social media infringements in the wake of the Southport riots, the establishment enemies of free speech are still doing it. A guy just got 18 months for 2 anti-migrant tweets a year ago, seen, wait for this, by a whole 33 people. Our jails are packed to the rafters. Isn't it about time we stopped adding to the overcrowding crisis by putting naughty tweeters behind bars? 0344499 1000. In other news, 11-year-old schoolboys are to be given lessons on misogyny and how not to be horrible to women. Obviously, it's right to steer boys towards respecting girls. But isn't this perhaps going a bit too far? Are we getting a little too lost in the fashionable myth that all men are evil? Aren't these misogyny classes somewhat Orwellian? Mind control for children. What do you think? 0344499 1000. Also today, after police arrested pro-Palestine protesters in London shouting and screaming about the horror of Israel while the families of 15 Jews murdered by Muslim maniacs mourn their dead in Australia, the anti-Semitic mob have been warned that from now on, anyone yelling "globalise the Intifada" will be arrested. Are the cops finally going to crack down on all the illegal racist Jew hate that has now become a part of life amid the demonstrations that infect the entire country weekend after weekend, and indeed, as we just found out, during the week as well? If not, why not? And why not start with Westminster's worst irritant, your party's resident child, the MP for Coventry, Zara Sultana, who was there last night in the thick of the anti-Israel mania. 0344499 1000. Plus, the £8 billion Starmer is set to hand to the EU for Britain to join some student swap scheme. No one wants to stand in the way of students broadening their minds abroad, but £8 billion? Not only is two-tier Keir desperate to wreck Brexit and cosy up to Europe, he's prepared to pay through the nose for the privilege with taxpayers' money. Isn't that special? 0344499 1000. Meanwhile, another 550 migrants poured across the Channel yesterday, taking the tally since Saturday to an astronomical 737 alone on Saturday. Deterrence? What deterrence? Unless the weather's bad, the illegal armada just keeps on coming. And still they come, as it is revealed that net migration is soaring amid a massive surge in the number of asylum claims. It's out of control, isn't it? 0344499 1000. And finally, royal guru Kinsey Schofield joins me later as reports surface that all is not well between Harry and Meghan. Will marital strife be the name of the game for the gruesome twosome in 2026? I really hope not. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday afternoon together. And I'm really discombobulated at the moment because usually he's my Friday friend, 7 to 9 on Friday night on the Political Asylum. I highly recommend it because I will be doing that tomorrow. Pete Barnes usually accompanies me into that journey into the weekend, but he's with me now.
Yes.
I don't know where I am.
This is going to throw me for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
it really is.
It really is. Pete Barnes, political strategist, with me to go through some of the big stories of the day. Let's kick off. Well, let's play a clip first. Last night, I find it's extraordinary, folks. Let me know what you think. But I find it extraordinary that there are the families and the loved ones and the friends of 15 Jews murdered last weekend, gunned down, rifled down to death by 2 Muslim maniacs. They are mourning their dead. This is an atrocity. And how do people in this country react? They stage anti-Israel marches, pro-Palestine marches. What is wrong with these people? Now, the police now are saying they've had enough, because I've always said, Pete, I've always said that I don't believe in banning marches. I don't believe in banning public demonstrations. I don't agree with those pro-Palestine fanatics, but I do believe in the right to protest, the right to demonstrate. So I'm not one of the banning mob. Let them do it, I say. But I've always said that the police must police them properly. And if racist laws are broken, chanting, globalise the Intifada. I don't know how that chant goes, by the way. It doesn't say. It's not very snappy, is it? Globalise the Intifada. I mean, I don't know what the tune is, but it's the worst lyrics I've ever seen. But of course, it means kill every Jew in the world. So the police have said, if we hear that from any of you lot, you anti-Israel, pro-Palestine marchers, we will arrest you. In other words, they've stood by for 2 years, more than 2 years, watching these marches snake through our cities and towns every weekend and also in the week as well. And the cops have just watched while people shout, from the river to the sea, when will Palestine be free? That means annihilate Israel. They do jihad. They have jihad signs. It's blatant anti-Semitism. It's blatant illegal racism. The police so far have basically turned a blind eye to it. They've admitted that crimes have been committed, but in the interests of keeping the peace, they have not arrested anyone. Finally, they're saying they're going to arrest people who chant globalise the Intifada, which means let's kill every Jew on the face of the planet. Anyway, let's have a look at a clip, because among these nutters, these maniacs, these anti-Semites, is the MP Zara Sultana, one half of the leadership of the excellent Your Party, run by Magic Grandpa Jeremy Corbyn and Miss Sultana. She's in the middle of this. And they are indeed chanting globalise the Intifada. Let's have a look at this.
A blood pressure of 127. They're not allowing medical professionals. They're not allowing medical professionals to be able to see a woman who's lost 15% of her body.
No one's threatening anyone.
That's a great start, isn't it? That's not the mob marching through London last night. We'll get that to you in a little while. Now, Pete, where do you stand on this? They did, to be fair, last night some pro-Palestine, I think it was 5, were arrested by the police after calling for the Intifada.
Yeah.
But, it shouldn't just be globalise the Intifada. They've put my point is, or my question is, I'm glad the police are saying this, but do we trust them to go through with it?
No, not at all, because you've got a commissioner of Met Police here who said that the Nazi flag needed context. That's literally what he said, and I'm sorry that this is far too little, far too late, and this is the reason we have the rise in anti-Semitism is because we allowed it to happen. We kind of academicked the horrific side of it away. We kind of said, well, they don't really mean it. Oh, it could be interpreted this way. No, it's not. And you don't protect the right to protest by allowing bad actors within those protests to commit crime and spread hate. That's what the police have allowed to happen because of cowardice more than anything, because they don't want to offend anybody, and they don't. It's very clear that the police have a particular side to this argument, and I don't like the idea of that at all.
I think the police just look every single weekend, every time you see one of these marches, they look like they're pro-Palestine supporters. You know, they're always warning Jews to go nowhere near these marches. Get away! You know, you're openly Jewish, as Gideon Falter from the campaign against anti-Semitism.
The interesting thing on that,
you're openly Jewish.
The interesting thing on that,
if it's a crime.
It was actually the police admitting that they couldn't keep a Jewish man safe in London. That's exactly what they're admitting.
It's exactly what they did in Aston Villa in Birmingham. Oh, we can't have Jewish fans here. We can't guarantee their safety. If they were Palestine fans, you know, Palestine United, if there is such a team, I guarantee you the police would guarantee their safety. There's something anti-Jew about all of this. I hope the police are now raising their game. But anyway, second time lucky, I think we do have Zara Sultana among the chanting mob in London last night. Take it away, Zara. Intifada, intisar. There she is. Not much of a demo, is it? So there's Zara. I suppose technically you can't quite see her actually saying it, so she'll probably get away with that. But I wouldn't mind her having her collar felt.
No, because I would remind you, there's 50 members of the British Parliament that are begging David Lammy to meet with the families of these people on hunger strikes. Let's not forget that this is a prescribed terrorist organisation, Palestine Action. They're actively supporting it, and now members of our Parliament are saying that, you know, we should go easy on them. I'm sorry, the two-sidedness of the kind of two-tier society is evidently clear. That one side gets the hammer thrown at them and the book thrown at them, with it's, with the likes of Lucy Connolly, and the other side get protests and academic excuses. It's just pathetic, but yet it's Starmer's Britain, so what do you expect?
Exactly right. Let me know what you think about that, folks. Is it time for the police to crack down, to actually start arresting people? I mean, they could kick off that little film we just saw. They could kick off by getting the woman with the microphone, who was actually saying globalise the Intifada. If she's easy to find, find her, arrest her. Has she been arrested? If not, what are you talking about, cops? Are you going to crack down or not? Now let's move on for the time being, but let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. Now in the evening, Pete, as you know, I don't usually do show questions, but Ian likes them, so we're going to do one. Had a bit of a row about what it was going to be.
Just a little.
It was, as usual, a very one-sided row. We all agreed to do what I said.
It's funny how true that is.
Anyway, the question, for the show question, and I think it is a good question, should we stop jailing tweeters? Simple as that. Should we stop jailing tweeters? Ironically, yesterday, Lucy Connolly, who got 2 years and 7 months, for an admittedly nasty tweet after the Southport riots, after the Southport murders. 2 years and 7 months. She'd never so much as had a parking ticket before in her life. A mum trying to bring up her kids in Northampton. 2 years and 7 months she got. And actually 12 people, something like 385 people, I think went to jail after the riots in the wake of the Southport horror across the country. 12 of them went to jail for posts on social media. Now, my argument is I don't think any of those 12 should have gone to jail. I'm uncomfortable about the idea of policing speech and what you write and what you post altogether, but I'm a bit of an absolutist. I understand when people say, well, if you're patently calling for violence and race hate, punishment is in order. Okay, I'll go along with that. But prison for hurty words? I don't think so. That's my view. Let me know what you think. And the reason we're talking about this, Pete, we did this story last night on my show, Political Asylum, 7 to 10 p.m, Monday to Friday. Highly recommend it. It's a guy has been jailed for 2 tweets, which was really nasty. It was in the wake of the German market atrocity, the terrorist attack, the driving into the German market this time last year at Christmas. So 2 tweets a year ago about the German market terrorist attack, and he's here in Dorset. He a couple of tweets saying things to Germans should march on the asylum seekers hotel, burn them down, and all that sort of stuff. Not at all nice. No one is condoning that. Two tweets, 12 months ago, December 24, seen, Pete, by 33 people,
yeah.
33 Jews, 33 views, and he's got 18 months.
That's astonishing.
So we're still sending people to jail for hurty words on social media. I think we got to stop.
Yeah, because it's just a cheap substitute for not being able to govern properly. Isn't it funny we can put all this effort into policing tweets, but we can't stop the small boats? It's about choices. It's about what you put political will into, and it's very clear that this government is putting so much effort into policing tweets because they see it as active criticism, and yet again is the two-tier society, plain and simple. If you're going to police tweets, you police them fairly. That's not happening. So therefore, we have to start questioning whether whether the principle is right in general. And I'm with you, Kev. I don't like the idea of policing tweets, speech or anything like that. I actually would rather we have none of these laws because I know what you really think. What the problem you have with what people have believed about hate speech laws is, oh, well, if we stop you saying it, you'll stop thinking it. That doesn't work. And what happens is that those people then go into more darker bits of the internet, and that's where real radicalization happens. Yeah. So realistically, what you're doing with these kind of laws is shifting people into more extreme positions. It doesn't work.
I detest racism. Racism is entirely wrong, don't get me wrong. But I'm not even convinced that racism should be a crime.
Yeah.
I mean, if you form the opinion that racism is right, that you don't like people of colour or you don't like Jews or whatever, that's disgusting. It's revolting. We should discourage people from that. But discourage them by sending them to jail for what they think. Should racism be a crime punishable by prison?
It doesn't work. This is my big argument against these things. Is we've tried this, and yet hate incidents and incidents of racism, anti-Semitism, it's escalated ever since. So their actual kind of solution has only made the situation worse. So again, it's about education. It's about I actually think the kind of stigma of being called a racist doesn't mean anything anymore. So even if you get thrown in prison for it, if anything, you get a fanfare when you come out. It's not really having the kind of effect that they want it to have. But yet again, instead of admitting that they've gone down the wrong path, the Labour government and the left wing in general just double down on it. So we're only going to get stricter and harder laws rather than actually reforming anything and trying to change society.
And I'll tell you what makes me uncomfortable. The guy's called Luke Yarwood. Just a little guy from Dorset, and he's got 18 months for 2 tweets seen by 33 people, posted a year ago. Now, what makes me more uncomfortable than the very fact of that is that in the end, Mr. Yarwood is going to jail because the establishment, the left-leaning establishment in this country, want to kind of criminalise right-wing opinions, certainly far-right opinions. See, I mean, should far-right opinions be illegal? I mean, you might not like them, but should they be illegal? 03444991000. Let's go to break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about misogyny. Boys as young as 11 are going to be given lessons on misogyny. I wrote in my monologue, lessons in misogyny. So they're going to be taught how to hate women.
Wow.
No, on misogyny. We've got to get that right, folks. We'll discuss it after the break. My initial thought is, of course you want to discourage boys from disrespecting women, but lessons? Isn't it a bit thought control-y? Isn't it going a bit far? We'll talk about that after these messages. Stay tuned, folks.
Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about schoolboys. A story's come out today, and this is part of Jess Phillips's initiative. She's the safeguarding minister. She's really doing a great job safeguarding all those young girls, the victims of the rape gang scandal, isn't she? Really great. Yeah, I know a lot of these girls now. They haven't got much time for Miss Phillips, I'll tell you that. Anyway, she's now worried about boys because she fears, or the authorities fear, that misogyny is a scourge that is surging through our education system, young lads becoming polluted by this horrible outlook. So it is proposed that boys at school, as young as 11, will be given lessons on misogyny so that they can learn about the evils of misogyny, and it is evil, it is horrible, misogyny, obviously, and how to respect women. Now, I'm all for that in principle, Pete. You know, of course, boys should be steered away from disrespecting women. Of course they should learn to respect women. But I'm not entirely comfortable with the idea of boys sitting in a classroom and a teacher, this is what you must think, this is what you must think. I think they're going about a decent cause in the wrong way. This is Orwellian. This is thought control. This is teaching kids what to think. Don't you dare think anything else. So you know, I'm not against the idea or the sort of principle. I'm just not happy about the idea of 11-year-old boys being made to sit there while somebody tells them how to not disrespect women.
Yeah, I also don't really trust teachers to do this without wandering into the field of
who's
politics.
Who's going to give the lessons?
Yes,
good
that's my big fear. It's one of the reasons I don't like the idea of politics being taught in schools. I was like, I can see the Guardian headline and the Daily Mail headline in my head already. You know, but my bigger problem with this is I do think it's a lot of the establishment rather kind of cleaning their halos again, because I don't really see how this is going to work, because I actually think how you fix a lot of these problems is you hire and promote more male primary school teachers, you put value into being a father again, and you stop this kind of denigration of men in society in general, because not so long ago we had all men are rapists and kill all men trending on Twitter every other day, and yet the same people, you know, are now saying, oh, but you know, it's men that are the problem. I'm sorry, it's not. And they'll blame social media, that'll be the first thing they blame, and then they'll blame Andrew Tate. They are symptoms of a bigger problem that they've actually kind of created, the establishment, they've created this problem themselves, because yet again, men fell behind in education, they fell behind in the workplace, and there is no economic opportunity. So they are attracted to people who then start to say, this isn't your fault. There is a bigger problem here, and it actually starts with the economy, because it's a far too complex thing to teach 11-year-olds, I'm afraid. It won't work. It really won't.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and that some of the language being used about this is really disturbing, I think. So boys who have showed harmful behaviour towards girls, I mean, obviously they should be corrected, no doubt about it. I don't want to see that. You know, this is what it says. They will be signed up to, and I quote, behaviour change programmes. Hello, 1984.
I think that's a little on the nose for 1984.
The courses will be focused on challenging deep-rooted misogynist influences. As I say, don't get me wrong. You know, boys, if they are being misogynistic towards girls or women, then yeah, of course, they must be steered away from that. But I'm not sure that sitting them down and saying, right, it's the misogyny lesson.
Yeah, because yet again, it is saying that everything that is wrong is your fault. Everything seems to be dumped on young men, and then you suddenly wonder why young men start behaving in the way that they do. You know, when society at large starts blaming you for everything, you start to say, well, why should I bother being in society? The checking out is the major problem.
As you say, Pete, this is what worries me about this. It's that it dials into this growing idea, this myth, this fashionable myth that all men are evil. Now, if you watch TV dramas these days, do you remember whodunits? Whodunit drama, very popular. They don't have whodunit dramas anymore. They have he done it. It's always a bloke, usually a white bloke. He's the murderer every single damn time. So this idea that all men are evil, all men are misogynists, I think is pernicious and wrong. And I fear that misogyny lessons for 11-year-olds will only make that situation worse.
I'd also always say that I'd take the government more seriously on this if they did something to stop the illegal migration flow of people from other countries who have a less respect for women than, you know, in our society. And, you know, we've seen the incidents that have happened from that. Maybe start to tackle the things you can actually control.
Absolutely. Very quickly before we go to break, every time I see the word decolonise, I throw up. So excuse me if I'm sick in the next couple of minutes, but the British Museum is sending artefacts abroad to help countries decolonise. Curators have overseen the transfer of Greek and Egyptian treasures to a leading Indian museum. The 80 artefacts are now displayed in a new gallery intended to undo what does this even mean? Colonial misinterpretation by highlighting India's contribution to civilization. I have no idea what that claptrap means, but what do you think about this?
Well, yet again, it's just this kind of, let's just have a word salad and hope it's doing something. It doesn't mean anything. It is literally just kind of virtue signalling, but it's kind of pernicious in the, obviously in the academic world, but in the kind of the museums lending these things out, obviously you've got the Elgin Marbles situation that is ongoing, and, you know,
don't give it, but don't give them that Elgin Marbles. Let's just keep them for a laugh. That's my idea.
Yeah. You know, the British Museum might be called the British Museum, but it's a museum for the world, and it holds some of the most amazing artifacts, and they're there for a reason. It's not because we stole them or anything like that. We have to move on from this nonsense, but unfortunately, our academic circles are obsessed with it. Yeah. So therefore, we have to keep talking about it.
So we go over to India with the Greek urn. How much does a Greek urn? About 10 quid a week. Right. So we go over with a Greek urn, and we show it to the Indians and say, "There you go. Decolonisation, you know what I mean?"
Yeah. Can we also start realising that decolonisation also means anti-white?
Yeah.
You're looking at the decolonisation of our own curriculum. It all means no white people.
What a crock of crap.
Yeah.
Let's go to break, shall we? And I think I'm saying thank you to Pete. Pete's been magnificent. Pete Barnes, political strategist, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be back with me tomorrow night at 7 p.m. That's the Political Asylum, Monday to Friday, 7 till 10 p.m. I highly recommend it. He'll be with me tomorrow night, and he's also going to be on my Christmas special of What Just Happened, my must-see TV show.
I'm also on Later with Andre and Ash.
So, I'll tell you what, I can't get enough of you.
I know, yeah.
My cup runneth under. So, thank you, Pete. Next up, Nicole Lampert, Jewish journalist, on the scourge of these pro-Palestine marches and the chanting of Globalise the Intifada. That next, stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Got lots of calls coming in. Quite a few about misogyny, and one call we'll get to Matt in Cheshire later on. But I was listening to Peter Cardwell doing the breakfast show this morning here on Talk, and he had two guests, and he said, "What about the influence of rap music?" Which can, we all know, be pretty damned misogynistic. And they said, "Oh no, I don't want to besmirch an entire culture." Well, if you're not going to confront the possible causes of misogyny, if you're going to be so left-wing and liberal and Guardian reader about it, then we're never going to solve the problem, are we? So if you've got people in charge, you know, who won't accept that maybe rap music plays a part, I'm not saying it's responsible for all misogyny, but the message that a lot of rap music sends is not great. If you've got experts and people in charge not prepared to confront that reality, how are we going to solve it? I'm not convinced you solve misogyny by sitting 11-year-olds down and controlling their minds. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Let's go back now, though, to the police saying that they are now going to arrest anyone that they hear chanting globalise the Intifada, which of course means wipe out, annihilate every Jew on the face of the earth. I mean, they could also get stuck into the jihad chants, from the river to the sea, when will Palestine be free? That means killing all Jews in Israel, and so on and so forth. The question is, I mean, at last they seem to have worked out that maybe something should be done about these Jew hate marches, these anti-Semitic hysterical gatherings that we see in our cities and towns every weekend, and now in the week as well, particularly after an atrocity against Jews. I mean, when Jews are murdered, oh my God, the pro-Palestine mobs are out in force, you know, to make sure that just because Jews have been killed, we can still hate them. It's unbelievable. Let's talk to journalist, old colleague of mine, Nicole Lampert. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Kevin. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Before we talk, let's have a little look at Zara Sultana. This isn't the world's most massive, impressive protest, but globalise the Intifada looms large. Have a look at this. Intifada, Intifada. So there's So you saw Zara Sultana there. You don't actually see her chanting. But what I'd like to know about that protest, before we get into the wider issue of this, Nicole, is have the police arrested that woman with the microphone, with the loudhailer? Have they arrested her? Because she's easily findable. Have they arrested her this morning? What would be your guess on that?
My guess would be no. They did arrest 5 people last night, so they are making a kind of mini effort. The Zara Sultana thing is kind of related but also separated, but obviously it is the same thing. But you do have to ask, Zara isn't a Labour MP anymore, but there are Labour MPs that are kind of demanding more help for the Palestine Action activists. And so they're using it as a kind of excuse that the kind of Palestine Action staff, which is some of them have gone on, have stopped eating. So that is the kind of latest excuse to carry on with these demonstrations and these calls for the eradication and violence against Jews, simply because people have been imprisoned for breaking the law. Yeah, and what do you feel about this syndrome? We saw it after October the 7th. I find it almost unfathomable. After October the 7th, 1,200 innocent Jewish people slaughtered, murdered, shot, beheaded, babies put in ovens, women raped. And the response in Britain and the Western countries around the world is people hit the streets chanting pro-Palestine slogans. It's all about evil Israel. So we're now in the slipstream, in the horrible wake of what happened
at Bondi Beach in Australia last weekend. And what's been happening in London ever since? These crazed pro-Palestine demonstrations. What is it about these people, these anti-Semites, that's what they are, what is it about them that they feel it's appropriate to start shouting and screaming about awful Israel and awful Jews after 15 have been murdered, gunned down by maniac Muslims in Australia, in Sydney? What is it about these people?
Well, so some of it is simply a bloodlust. It's kind of an enjoyment of seeing Jewish blood being spilled, and that almost excites them. And then anti-Semitism is a kind of great thing that links different groups together. So it links all of the Muslim world, which otherwise would be kind of killing each other, the Shias and the Sunnis, but they are together when it comes to hating Jews, hating Israelis. And then it also links kind of very conservative Islam with the far left, which is kind of what we see in the Greens, and we saw it in your party, which of course is Zara Sultana's party, if it ever gets off the ground. And one of the things that links it is this hatred of Jews and Zionism. And the thing that divides it is the fact that Zara is, kind of quite far left, pro-trans, and the conservative Muslims in that organisation are completely against all of that. So, but that is the power of anti-Semitism, in that it simply is a kind of glue for very different ideologies, and at the heart of these ideologies is the idea of hating the West, hating democracy, hating our values, and trying to change them, whether it's via communism or via Islam.
And you've written a powerful piece in The Independent today, pointing out the really sad fact that, in the wake of what happened in Bondi Beach, 15 innocent Jews celebrating Hanukkah on Sunday evening, gunned down by two Muslim maniacs with rifles, dead, 40 more lying in hospital, some of them critically injured. You've pointed out that as a result of that, there's had to be massive increased security for Jewish kids at school. That is tragic, isn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, like, Jewish schools are already, they're already like fortified castles. Even when I was looking for my son, who's now old enough to go to university, when I was looking at schools, and I decided not to send him to a Jewish school, and one of the reasons was it was like a fortress to get in. There are two lots of gates, there are 2, 3, 4 security guards at every gate, there's CCTV, and that was even well before the war. Since the war, from October 7 onwards, then there's often been police guards outside. Parents have had to take on security rotas. They've had to have training. And each time there is an attack on Jews, the Jews, in different countries, in Australia is obviously the other side of the world, Jews here are under threat even more, which is perverse in itself. One parent, and I haven't actually put a quote in because I had so much stuff, but she had to tell her 6-year-old what had happened in Israel on October 7 because her friend's dad was Israeli and had decided to stay in Israel and join up. So she explained, and their daughter got to school, and there's police officers outside the school. And she says, "Mummy, what's going on? Why are there police officers outside?" And she said, "Well, because I told you what happened in Israel." She said, "Yeah, but that happened in Israel. Why are there police officers outside my school?" And of course, that is the big question. So why? And again, it goes back to that bloodlust of why do attacks on school on Jews somewhere else make Jews even more under threat? But after the October 7 attacks, well before Israel had struck back, while it was still trying to fight off terrorists on Israeli soil, then we saw the first celebrations outside the Israeli embassy on the Saturday and the Sunday nights. And I remember seeing that, and I'd spent the entire weekend speaking to people in Israel and trying to tell the story as a journalist, and feeling absolutely sickened to my core.
Yeah,
I think it has sickened people. I think I'm not the only one that saw it. I think that it has opened people's eyes, and I think this continuing has opened people's eyes. There is a ceasefire, and it's imperfect, but the fact that they are still on our streets,
that's right. That's
every
made
day.
no difference to this lot. I mean, now that there's a ceasefire, I mean, as you say, it's a strange kind of ceasefire. It's pretty bellicose still down in Gaza. But officially there's a ceasefire. It hasn't stopped this lot, has it, these marches? So now they used to call for a ceasefire, peace in Gaza. They can't do that anymore because officially there is peace in Gaza. So what are they marching for? They're just marching because they hate Jews. It's as simple as that. And that is a disgrace. Interesting what you said about kids, that little girl's observation. You can't beat the kind of searing eye of an innocent child. They always ask the right questions, and they expose the horror of what's going on. To go back to our original point, you know, the police, you know, it's taken them 2 years, but they're finally waking up, perhaps, to the fact they're going to have to crack down on these chants and these jihads and from the river to the sea, globalise the intifada. I mean, just before the Bondi Beach atrocity, there was a pro-Palestine demonstration outside the Sydney Opera House where the Australian cops stood by and watched while they all chanted joyously, "Gas the Jews." That was happening in Australia. It's pretty much been happening here. The police now say, well, we are going to crack down. Do you trust them to do it?
The thing is that this is the kind of the lowest hanging fruit, in that this should have been done 2 years ago, and the Jewish community has been calling for this to be done for 2 years. But you know, that this covers up a much bigger problem. So they definitely should be doing this. They definitely should be arresting them. But we've been pointing out to them the amount of anti-Semitism on these marches, and even when it's pointed out to them at the marches, it's like they are too frightened to go in and arrest these people. So I'm glad that they're being given these extra powers, but this is just this is the edge of the problem, like the tip of the iceberg, in that the other side of it is, of course, the Muslim Brotherhood and all the power it has in this country, and hate preachers in our mosques who are allowed to say whatever they want, particularly when it comes to wanting to hurt Jews and wanting to hurt all of us. You know, they're preaching against Western values. Yeah. And it's kind of a cliche, but Jews being the canary in the coal mine, you know, Jews have now been killed. That means that there is a real poison in the air, and I feel that lots of people feel this, and they will understand along with me that arresting a few people for saying globalise the Intifada is not going anywhere near enough.
Exactly right. And these demonstrations, these explosions of pro-Palestine fervour that happen after atrocities against Jews, there's only one way to interpret them. These people are celebrating. They're celebrating the fact that 15 Jews were murdered back after October the 7th, and it's still to this day. They're celebrating the fact that Hamas murdered 1,200 innocent Jews. That's what's going on.
And that's what
the police. I've been to some of these marches, not as a participant, but when they first started, I went to look at a few of them, and it's extraordinary what the police just stand there looking at and not doing anything. They say, "Oh well, if we went in there, we wouldn't keep the peace." Well, you know, what's the law for if you just say, well, it's okay to break it as long as we keep the peace? No, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the problems with policing by consent, in that consent is breaking down, that the police are too afraid to do their policing. And we saw that again with the whole Aston Villa thing, didn't we? Where they were not only were they too frightened to allow Israeli fans to Aston Villa to play, they were too frightened of the response from the local activists, but they then lied about it too. So we are definitely seeing, you know, this kind of issue, and we definitely see this kind of enjoyment of Jewish death, and that is what the globalising Intifada means.
You're so right.
The Intifada was even, like, I don't know if you've seen the story about the BBC, but the fact is that they've written 3 versions of the same story, and they're unable to say how violent the Intifada was. So the first Intifada, I was in Israel on holiday, and this is the less violent one. And even in the space of the 3 weeks I was there, there was a bomb went off on the Tel Aviv beach, and a Canadian tourist was killed, and there was a bus bombing, and that was the first Intifada. The second Intifada, which happened in the early 2000s, led to was many terrorist attacks in cafes, on buses. More than 1,000 Israelis were killed. and even today, the BBC is gaslighting us, and as we have been gaslit for the last 2 years, that intifada doesn't mean violence.
Yeah,
Well, it totally does.
Yeah, of course it does. The BBC, which their first reports from Australia were there's been a terrible gunning down and massacre on Bondi Beach. Some of the victims are believed to be Jewish.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a last question, Nicole. Great to talk to you, by the way. Going back to Birmingham, when the West Midlands police said we can't guarantee the safety of these Jewish fans if they come here to watch Maccabi Tel Aviv play Aston Villa, if it was, and I don't know if there is such a team, but if it was Palestine United coming to play Aston Villa, do you think the West Midlands police would say that they couldn't guarantee the Palestine United fans' safety?
Definitely not. And if a Palestine United football team went anywhere in the country, they would be absolutely safe. It is only Israeli fans, and it has been discussed that since that game, there have been many teams that have played at Aston Villa, and many of them with dangerous hooligans that have been in trouble with FIFA and all of that. And obviously, I'm not saying that there are no hooligans in Tel Aviv Maccabi. There are in all football teams, but there are ones that have been dangerous football hooliganism, and not one of them has been banned. Yeah. So this is only about Jews. It's about Israelis, and there is this merging between them, because obviously the Jews on Australia, they're not Israelis, but we saw the same sort of celebrations. And what we are seeing now is, as you said, they're not really talking about ceasefire anymore, because that exists. So instead it's targeted at Jews. So I went on a university campus a few weeks ago to listen to an Israeli feminist talking about the sexual violence of October 7, and there was a group outside screaming Zionists off our campus, and they had so much hatred in their eyes that it actually gave me shivers. Yeah. Even though I don't think of myself as a scared person, and I'm not a student there, but it was so shocking.
There's a sort of brainwashing cult element to it, and terrible, absolutely terrible. Listen, Nicole, stay strong. Really good to talk to you.
Andy, thanks, everyone.
Nicole Lampert there, journalist, very strong, powerful voice in favour of the Jewish community here and indeed around the world. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll take some calls, so stick around.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. After the 2 o'clock news, we're going to be joined by Isabel Oakshott. We're going to address the question that we're asking you today to phone in about. Well, you can phone in about anything you like, to be honest with you. But our sort of main question is, should we stop jailing tweeters? A guy's just been to jail, been sent to jail for 18 months for 2 anti-migrant tweets. Not very nice tweets, to say the least. They're horrible. But it was a year ago. They were viewed by 33 people. Is that worth 18 months behind bars? I don't think it's a discussion point. It just isn't, is it? That's wrong. That's disproportionate. I don't think anyone should go to jail for writing hurty words on social media. What do you think? 03444991000. Let's go to Kevin in Leicester. Hi, Kev. What do you think about jailing tweeters? I think it's a disgrace.
Oh, mate, I'm right behind you on it. The thing is, like, it's not just tweets, it's anything posted online.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
A quick example. You think of things you mentioned today, the Zara Sultana thing, the kneecap thing at Glastonbury.
Yes, good point.
These are that Labour Council. These are all. I've seen all these.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't tweeting, but it's still a mystery to me that Bob Villan, those idiots down at Glastonbury, who blatantly on television chanted about killing Jews, death to the idea. I don't think they've even been spoken to by the police.
I think he did, actually. I think Peter Cardwell was pushed eventually. It took about 5 months for the police to speak to him.
Okay.
And then they said there's no
then they said there's no case to answer. Okay, so I stand corrected there.
6 months window. I think that was Peter Cardwell was pushing that one.
If there's no case to answer for calling for Jews to be killed at Glastonbury, why is there a case to be answered for Luke Yarwood, a little guy down in Dorset, has obviously got, probably extreme opinions. I think you should be allowed to have extreme opinions. Who's tweeted a couple of things that are very nice, calling asylum seeker hotels in Germany to be burnt down, that kind of thing. If Bob Villan doesn't warrant any police investigation, why did 2 tweets by a little bloke in Dorset a year ago warrant 18 months in jail?
Exactly. Well, the thing is, it's a leftist post and a rightist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I don't want to say like that. Another example: Donald Trump's doctored video by the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
If that was real, that's an example of some kind of post that you could say, actually, you deserve to go to prison. But but obviously we know that wasn't real. What the point I just want to make on it is, prison's supposed to rehabilitate people, right?
It's supposed to.
Well,
but our prisons these days are just warehouses full of drugs and prisoners who just sit around watching telly, getting stoned until they come out. That's what happens in our prisons.
But I think the point they say, when they say, "Have you come out? Have you been rehabilitated?" And what I'm trying to,
and they all go, "Yeah."
Look, what? When like...
Have I been what? Oh, rehabilitated. Yeah. Hey, listen, Kev, I'm with you. I've got to go. I've got to take another call. Really good to talk to you, mate. Kevin in Leicester. Let's quickly talk to Emma in Gloucestershire. Emma, you want to talk about the misogyny courses. What are your thoughts?
Oh, hi. Yeah, so I'm a mum of 4 sons, actually. So I've got some lived experience with bringing up boys.
Okay.
My eldest is 22, and he's a respectful young man, hardworking.
Yeah.
Treats his girlfriend with respect.
Good.
But he's very nervous of walking near women now, due to all this stuff that we've seen on social media.
Are you happy with all 4 of your boys?
Yeah, the concern I have, anyway, I'll just get to the point. My 15-year-old is a proper boy's boy, plays football.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bit of a lad at school. I get called in now and again because he's a bit, rowdy.
That takes me back, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
My parents virtually lived at my school, but sorry, carry on.
So obviously he is very respectful to me at home. He doesn't, he's not showing signs of misogyny. But I think the issue is there isn't enough positive masculine role models.
I think that's a good point. What do you feel though, Emma? Of course, we want to we want boys to respect women. To respect girls. But don't you feel? Do you share my concerns that sitting 11-year-old boys down and saying, right, here's your misogyny lesson? It's going a bit far.
100%.
Yeah?
I 100% agree with you. It's 1984.
It is Orwellian, isn't it?
Control. It's really ridiculous because what I feel like they're doing, and they've been doing this for a long time to boys, and it starts at primary school where they treat boys and girls very differently. They're telling boys they're the problem. Not just that, they're telling them masculinity is wrong. That it's wrong to be masculine.
It's this demonisation of men generally, as I was saying earlier. Watch television dramas. The bad guy, the murderer, is always the bloke. They don't have whodunits anymore, they have he-done-its. There is this growing fashionable myth that all men are bad, all men are evil, and what worries me about these misogyny courses is it plays into that. I'm, of course, against misogyny. We've got to stop it. We've got to somehow teach kids not to be misogynistic, but I think these lessons are Orwellian and going too far. Emma, thank you for an excellent call. That's Emma in Gloucestershire. Let's go to break. Isabel Oakeshott when we come back, so you better stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Taking your calls again in about 20 minutes. 03444991000. Big question of the day. Going to discuss this in just a second with Isabel Oakeshott. Should we stop jailing tweeters? Why do we keep sending people to jail for hurty words on social media? I keep being told, oh, our prisons, they're packed to the rafters, so overcrowded, we're having to let out murderers and rapists to make room for more lawbreakers. Well, don't send people who write hurty, naughty tweets to jail then. Let's just stop that, shall we? That's my thought. What do you think? 03444991000. In half an hour or so, I'll talk to an expert, a paediatrician, who believes that misogyny courses for 11-year-old boys are a good idea. Might not agree with him. We will take more calls towards the end of the hour. So lots still to come. Well, let's go straight over to the great Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor here at Talk. Isabel, hi.
Hi, good afternoon.
I covered this story last night, sort of broke it really, that a guy called Luke Yarwood, 38 years old, a little guy from Dorset. A year ago, when there was that terrible Christmas market terrorist attack where people were killed in that German town, he got very het up and started tweeting Germans should, attack the asylum seeker hotels, set fire to them, all that sort of thing. They're horrible tweets, not to be condoned. If you really wanted to go to the ends of the earth, I suppose you could say they were inciting racial hatred and potentially violence. But that gets a little bit stretched. So here he is, like somewhere in darkest Dorset, in a little village or something, tweeting, attack the German asylum seeker hotels, migrants, kill them all, and all this kind of stuff. All terrible, awful. 33 people saw those tweets, 2 tweets, last December. This December, yesterday, he got 18 months in jail for that. Ironically, or by an ironic coincidence, if you like, yesterday was the day that Lucy Connolly returned to Twitter for the first time since she got 2 years and 7 months in the wake of the Southport riots, the Southport killings, for tweeting something fairly similar. Set fire to the hotels, send them all home, and all that kind of stuff. This was a woman, a mum, who before getting 2 years and 7 months for writing hurty words on social media had never had so much as a parking ticket. I don't know about Luke Yarwood's background, but and he's probably got quite extremist views. I think you should be allowed to have them if you want to have them. But 2 tweets a year ago, seen by 33 people, and he gets 18 months. I thought we'd stopped sending people to jail for social media posts. In the wake of Southport, 385 people went to jail, rioters mainly. 12 of them were for social media posts. And the nation was pretty horrified by Lucy Connolly in particular. But, oh my God, we're still doing it. When are we going to stop sending people to jail for writing hurty words on Twitter?
Well, perhaps not under this government. I mean, I've read the messages that he put on social media, and whilst they're pretty horrible, as you've agreed, and I'm sure everyone would agree, they are frankly irrelevant. The guy might as well been outside standing in a field howling at the moon.
Exactly right.
Or writing it on a little piece of paper in his room, in his bedroom. Is that now going to be illegal? The reality is there is not a scintilla of evidence that his tweets, if that's where he posted them, or his postings on social media, made any impact whatsoever on anybody. And that is why I can't understand what possible justification there could be for ever bringing this before the courts. Never mind about jailing, which is patently absurd and ludicrous in its disproportion. This should never, ever have troubled the Crown Prosecution Service. There's no reason whatsoever why an individual like this, at the absolute maximum, shouldn't have had a little visit from a community police officer who said, look, this isn't a great idea. Luckily, you're a nobody. You've got no following, so no one's really seen this apart from your bitter and twisted brother-in-law who felt that he was doing the right thing by shopping you to the police. Families, eh?
There's a family story there, I'm certain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he thought he was doing the right and honourable thing, but he also had a bit of an axe to grind by all accounts.
I think so, yeah.
That should be as far as it ever went. We've got so many problems in this country relating to actual harm, physical harm caused by real people acting in the real world, not words in the ether that no one's really seeing, This guy had no platform, no influence, no status. He's an idiot. That's the problem with giving everybody the access to social media. Anyone can be an idiot, especially after they've had a few drinks. It doesn't mean it has any effect at all. Whereas the prisons are overflowing and unable to accommodate people who have caused real, demonstrable hurt and harm, whether it's by thieving property or actually attacking people. There are far too many of these real criminals getting away with non-custodial sentences. I think the judge has got an awful lot of questions to answer.
Here's what also worries me. I agree with every word you just said there, by the way, as well. But here's what also worries me. Luke Yarwood, clearly holds, I don't like this expression, but what Keir Starmer will call far-right opinions. And I fear that our legal system, our liberal judges, and our liberal establishment, our left-leaning establishment, are in the process, or they've probably already achieved this, of criminalising right-wing opinions. And that's why I think Luke Yarwood has gone to jail. Now, I'm going to play you a little film now. This isn't, of course, a social media infringement, but here's a guy who didn't go to jail. You remember Councillor Ricky Jones. Let's have a look at this.
We've got children and women using those trains destroying some relatives. They are disgusting, nasty bastards, and we need to cut all their throats and get rid of them all.
So there is Ricky Jones, Labour councillor, calling for his political opponents to have their throats slashed, very, very obviously. And that could definitely be interpreted as an incitement to racial hatred because he's got a huge crowd around him. He's whipping them up. Now, Ricky Jones did not go to jail arguably because Ricky Jones is left-wing, is Labour. This is two-tier policing. We're looking at it right before our very eyes, aren't we?
Very much so. I remember that case, and it was a shocking case. I mean, people will probably disagree with it. I don't think he should really have gone to jail either. What he said was ridiculous, but ultimately, if the people around him or anyone who heard that is influenced by that to go and cut throats, they would have cut throats anyway, and that is on them. I'm very libertarian about this. I think people should be allowed to have truly ridiculous opinions. People should be allowed to have offensive opinions. You can't stop what goes on in people's heads. I suppose what you can do is police the circulation of those, the expressing of those in public forum, of dark thoughts in public forums. But ultimately, we're all responsible for our own behaviour. And, it's like, do you remember, when you were at school and you get into trouble and you've done
something? Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, it happened a lot.
and you say, well, Johnny told me to do it. That was never an excuse at school, was it? The teacher was always like, yeah, but, you can always say to Johnny, no, I'm not going to do that. It's up to you what you do. It is on us, and all of us, our individual decisions about how we behave. And if we engage in criminality, then that is our responsibility and culpability, not the culpability of someone who happened to tweet something inflammatory on social media. Now, of course, there are some lines here. If you've got a teacher standing up in front of influential, easily influenced young people, then that's really different. But the rest of us are adults and we can make our own judgments.
Yeah, and Ricky Jones was cleared. Now, as is obvious, look at what he's doing. He's calling for far-right scum Nazis to have their throats slit with a big, loud hailer. Look around him in that crowd. There's a lot more than 33 people there. So he gets cleared. He's found innocent, not guilty of inciting racial violence and racial hatred. And Luke Yarwood is found guilty of that same offence for two tweets a year ago about Germany that was seen by 33 people. That is a grotesque example of two-tier justice, isn't it?
It really is. And, sometimes you wonder whether people have been badly let down by their legal representatives. But in this case, Luke's lawyer did argue that hardly anyone had seen this and there was no evidence it had any impact. So we can only look on to the judge for the judge's discretion and the judge's view that really merited such a long time, any time, frankly, behind bars. And I think in the case of many of those who were jailed post the Southport riots, they were appallingly let down by their legal representation. A bunch of duty solicitors who persuaded them to plead guilty on the basis that they would be in and out much quicker. They would be through the system a lot quicker if they pled guilty. And we now know that the handful of people who did not plead guilty to those charges tended to fare rather better. I mean, there was a case, wasn't there? You and I discussed it, I think, a couple of weeks ago, of somebody who was cleared by a jury in the space of a matter of minutes.
17 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the Welsh former Marine who was accused of endangering children because of his opinions, because he was not keen on the migrant crisis. 17 minutes, Crown Court, ridiculous.
I mean, I hate all of this. This is not what our country should be. It's absolutely dark as anything, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
The simple village idiots, as well as people that just have a rush of blood to the head in an emotional moment and put something online, find themselves behind bars. This isn't Russia. This is the United Kingdom, a properly, supposedly healthy, high-functioning democracy. And yet, somehow or other, our authorities feel so close to losing control. And you know what? I think this is actually at the heart of it. It is the fact that they know that this country is on something of a knife edge because of their systematic failure of so many institutions, that they feel that this is how they have to respond. This is a cry of weakness by our institutions, not a cry of strength.
Yeah, and I want to ask the audience, this is the policing of opinions, folks. And as we've cited, because of Ricky Jones, the left-wing Labour councillor, it seems that you can almost say whatever the hell you like if you're left-wing. Call for the killing and the slitting of throats. If you're Labour, yeah, that's fine. But if you're right of centre, if you're right, oh God, no. God, this is the policing of opinions. And what worries me about this, I don't think anyone should ever go to jail for what they say or what they tweet. I don't think that this shouldn't happen at all. But what is really worrying me, what's concerning me, is in the end, we are living in a country that is policing opinions, and if you're right-wing, that is not acceptable, and we are turning right-wing opinions into a crime, and that has to stop.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We're always feeling as if we're one step away from a knock at the door, because we've said something that is no longer deemed acceptable, and I find it genuinely extraordinary that we're in this place, and as does much of the Western world. We know that the White House is horrified by this, by what is going on in Britain, the repression of free speech. And if this Labour government thinks that by locking people up you're somehow going to quash that type of opinion, they couldn't be more wrong. The only thing it does is actually foment far-right attitudes and even reasonable right-wing attitudes.
Exactly.
Because it is so utterly objectionable to behave like that.
Absolutely. So right-wing opinions get you sent to jail. See you in prison, Isabel. Thank you very much once again for a brilliant contribution from our international editor, Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Your calls next. 0344499 1000. Get on the phone. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk.
Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go to the phones. By the way, breaking news. I have a contact in Folkestone who tells me how many people came across the channel. If you are listening carefully during my opening monologue earlier, and I hope you were taking notes, I said there were 550 came across yesterday. Well, I should have said that that's not confirmed. It wasn't 550, but I wasn't far off. 497. It has just been confirmed, breaking news, that 497 migrants, small boat migrants, arrived illegally in Britain yesterday on a total of 9 boats. So that carries on. So what we've had since Saturday, when a stellar 737 came across, is around about 1,400 migrants across the channel illegally since Saturday. So don't listen to these Labour idiots and say, oh, our deterrence, the one in, one out scheme is really starting to work. Smash the gangs. You haven't smashed a single gang, have you? The only deterrent that this country has against this ongoing invasion of illegal foreigners is this, the weather. So they were beginning to boast last week. For 28 days, there hasn't been a single migrant come across the channel. Our deterrents are starting to work. You haven't got any deterrents. The one in, one out scheme, I mean, the only purpose of that, as far as I can work out, is comedy, so we can all have a good laugh at the absurdity of it. So no deterrents. For 28 days, it's the longest since the crisis began that we've gone without a single crossing. It was down to just one thing, folks, the weather. There was stormy weather for 28 days. The channel was all over the place. Saturday, suddenly, it's a mill pond. And it's been a mill pond ever since. I'm not sure about today. Not looking too good in London, I'll tell you that. But yesterday, still a mill pond, 497. More than 1,400 since Saturday. There are no deterrents. This invasion continues apace. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. It's a disaster. It's a spiralling disaster. Let's talk to Georgina in London. Hi, Georgina. You want to talk about jailing tweeters? Got to stop, hasn't it?
Well, good afternoon, Kevin. No matter how many times Keir Starmer says that we have free speech in Britain, it doesn't make it so. We have not got free speech in Britain. It's our democratic right to be able to say what we feel, and just because we vent our displeasure doesn't mean that we automatically have to get crawled up in front of some woke judge and put in prison. Now, a lot of bad things are happening in this country and around the world, and people get very frustrated because the governments are doing nothing. Perhaps if they did their job, Kevin, we wouldn't have to vent our displeasure on social media. But as it happens, nothing's getting done unless you live in the United States of America, where the president actually cares about his people, you know. But here, we are not cared about. The only time you are allowed free speech is when you agree with the narrative of the Labour government and the left wokey individuals. And I'm sorry, just because we don't agree with them and we vent our displeasure doesn't mean we can get a knock on the door and get trawled out by the old bill, which seems to be happening. They did it to a young man who was autistic. The young chap had learning disabilities, and he retweeted a meme or a post, I can't remember what it was, and they actually raided his home, and it was on your channel. I watched it in utter horror that a young man with learning disabilities could have been dragged out of his home and questioned because of a retweet. And, you know, you get people like this chap, Vicky Jones, who says the most abhorrent things, but that is his democratic right to say it. Not that I agree by any stretch with the vile rhetoric he was spouting, but it's his democratic right to say it. Now, he didn't go to prison for 18 months, you know, so something is seriously wrong. You say about two-tier justice. Well, there's enough tiers here to cry me a river, Kevin. It's just ridiculous what's going on, and it's so blatant for everyone to see. So they need to get their act together now, this government, and start to remedy this two-tier situation, because it's getting to a point now where we're frightened of opening our mouths, and that's what they want, Kevin. They don't want us to be able to have any kind of verbal comeback to the disgrace that they are making of this country.
It really is, and I can never get it out of my mind, that kind of almost comedic scene. Do you remember when Keir Starmer was over at the White House and he's sitting in the Oval Office with the President Trump and, of course, the Vice President J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance is giving him a hard time, sort of saying, why are you locking up tweeters? Why are you locking up people who protest outside abortion clinics? And Keir said, oh, no, we have a very, very strong, long and noble tradition of freedom of speech in Britain, in my country. And I'm standing there, sitting there, watching the TV going, you're locking up people for tweets. You're putting up people in jail for tweets. Don't sit there saying you got freedom of speech if you're doing that. And you're quite right, Georgina. The Americans, our American friends, they look across the Atlantic and they go, they're putting people behind bars for what they put on social media, on Twitter and Facebook. Are they really doing that? Yes, Georgina, they are. It's extraordinary.
Well, I've got friends. I've got a lot of friends in the United States of America. I'm actually going over to visit them in the not-too-distant future. And they've actually stopped coming. They used to come in the summertime to holiday in Britain and what have you. They've actually stopped coming for two reasons. A lot of them are very right-leaning. And obviously they put things on Facebook and what have you. And they won't come because they see what's going on and say, we're not coming over because we probably get arrested as soon as we get off the plane.
Exactly right. Georgina, we're always on the same page, aren't we? That's why I love talking to you, and also you make your points so well. So thank you for another excellent call. The great Georgina in London. And let's quickly talk to Matt in Cheshire. Hello, Matt.
Hi, good afternoon, Kev. I was watching Jess Phillips earlier on doing the media rounds, and she seemed to blame all misogyny in the United Kingdom on Andrew Tate. we're back to that old chestnut again, and not once did she mention like Middle Eastern, Muslim, or African men that have sort of archaic
or shall we say rap music. Peter Cardwell, doing breakfast here on Talk, hosting the breakfast show, had two experts on this issue, and neither of them would talk about the potential influence of rap music and rap lyrics on misogyny. Now, I'm not saying all rap music is misogynistic, but you know some of it is. Some of it is extremely disrespectful to women. They wouldn't talk about it. They say, oh, I don't want to besmirch an entire culture. If we're not going to confront the reality of what causes misogyny, the Andrew Tate incel factor is definitely part of it, but there's a lot more to it it than that, as you're saying. And I'm afraid that I just suspect that Jess Phillips, old virtue signalling Jess, just signs up to this popular myth, this fashionable myth that all men are evil, all men are a problem, it's men, it's men, it's men. You know, that's my fear. I just don't think, I'm not convinced that the authorities are approaching the problem of misogyny among kids, but among men generally, intelligently.
Well, I used to listen to hip hop in the late 80s and early 90s, so I was brought up on the B word was prominent.
Have you recovered?
In that period. I've become more nuanced as time's gone on.
Yeah, but I mean, it's what we ought to talk about. That we should talk about the incel thing. We should talk about Andrew Tate. We should talk about all sorts of aspects and factors that contribute to the problem of misogyny. It seems that Jess and the gang only want to say, Andrew Tate. All men, you know, and if you say, well, is it to do with, Islam? It tends to...
She won't mention because of her seat, Kev. She's not going to mention that, is she, because of her seat? Yeah. She literally avoids that subject at all costs.
I mean, do you think, Matt, do you think it's misogynistic to make women cover their faces and cover their bodies?
I mean, I think people should have a choice. I don't like it in Britain. I think it's a bit rude to us generally. I think at the end of the day, I think it's not. It goes against Western values. Blair started all this with, again, human rights, and you just think, well, it's their right to wear it, but.
I mean, the point is, Matt, arguably, and I'm not, obviously I'm not pointing the finger at all of Islam, but arguably, requiring women to cover themselves up from head to foot and just look through a kind of slit so you can only see their eyes, that does rather treat them as second-class citizens. So it's worth talking about that. I'm not just saying it's worth discussing. It's worth discussing rap music, but Jess and the gang only want to talk about Andrew Tate. You're so right. Matt, great call. Thank you for ringing. Matt in Cheshire there. And when we come back, we're going to talk about this very issue once again with the senior consultant paediatrician at Leicester Children's Hospital, Sanjeev Nichani, OBE no less. So we'll talk to Sanjeev after the break. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, we're going to discuss these misogyny lessons for 11-year-old boys and older, obviously, at school. Are they a good idea? Just how bad is the problem of misogyny in this country? First of all, let's talk to the senior consultant paediatrician at Leicester Children's Hospital, Sanjeev Nichani, OBE. Welcome to the show, Sanjeev.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Do you feel that these lessons at school are a good idea? The reason I ask is, of course, we're all against misogyny, and I do think we probably have a problem. But personally, a few of my callers as well, I'm not comfortable with the idea of kind of thought control lessons for 11-year-olds. So do you think they're a good idea, or do you share my reservations, my misgivings?
I don't share your reservations. I think they're a good idea, but in fact, I think they're a bit too little, too late. However, I think we would be in dereliction of our duty if we did not start to do something now.
Fair enough.
People keep saying, has the horse bolted? Have social media apps corrupted our children too much? That might be the case. There's a huge increase in pornography viewed by youngsters as young as 11, 13, sexualization of youngsters. There's a huge amount of misogyny. The way boys, sadly, particularly view girls is unhealthy. And in the opinion of myself, my colleagues in health professionals for Safer Screens, and around the country, the toxic social media apps are responsible for this.
Sure. When you say...
So we must make a start.
When you say the way that boys view girls is toxic, you mean the way that some boys view girls, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I apologize if I gave any impression it was a generalization, but 30% of boys have seen pornography at the age of 13.
Yeah, it is a problem. So you would say, it's interesting what you say, because I just took a call and we were talking about what I would describe as the mistake of saying, oh, it's all the Andrew Tate syndrome. I'm not saying that Andrew Tate and his incel followers aren't something to be very concerned about. Of course, they're a big factor. But there are all sorts of other factors contributing to this, if you like, this explosion of misogyny. And you've interestingly brought some of them up, such as social media. Social media, and I would suggest the easy access to porn for young boys is probably the biggest problem, isn't it?
Absolutely. And this is where the tech companies must start thinking about the children that they dish this content out to rather than profit. And that's what's currently dictating how they have these addictive algorithms. As you know, as your listeners know, children start searching for something completely benign, and they are then inundated with unhealthy, toxic pornography. That cannot be right. It's profit over childhood. That's most unhealthy. It cannot be right. So whilst the big tech companies are claiming that they're doing something about it, actually not doing anything about it, it is down to us as a society, as a government, and in schools to start taking action. So this is a good start. It's currently just sticking plaster over a massive problem, but we have to applaud it as a good start.
Okay, so what would you advocate these boys, as young as 11, being taught or told in these misogyny lessons, these anti-misogyny lessons?
Well, first
what would you advocate would be in those lessons?
Well, first of all, I think we need to start by banning social media apps for anybody under 16 straight away. That needs to happen.
You don't think that's a bit too draconian?
Absolutely not.
You don't care about the liberty or the freedom suppression involved in that.
I care about the health significantly, predominantly, and you could argue, you could say in the same context that they should be allowed to drive, they should be allowed to drink alcohol in the interest of liberty.
Be allowed to vote. Oh, wait a minute, Labour are going to let them vote.
Well, that's a completely different debate.
That's another issue.
I don't agree with it personally, but that's a completely different debate. Yeah. So just like we don't allow children to drive, drink alcohol, and smoke under 16, we should not allow them to have these toxic apps which are harmful to their brain. That's the first thing that needs to happen. But in the meantime, yes, just like we have sex education and relationship education for primary school children, we do need to teach boys, those who are affected, but generally boys across the board, about healthy relationships. That's really important. Primary school children are very impressionable. In fact, people are impressionable until their early adult life.
Yeah.
So yes, that's a starting point.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting, Sanjeev. So you advocate a real kind of blanket approach to this. You're the expert, so really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. That's Sanjeev Nichani, OBE, Senior Consultant Paediatrician at Leicester Children's Hospital. Let's go over now. She's the creator of the DAY programme, which does preventative work with young people on abuse and exploitation. Natalie Collins. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Hello.
My understanding is that your feeling is that the resources that are going to go into these misogyny lessons, and indeed what looks like a sort of general programme to try to steer boys away from disrespecting women, you feel that that money could be better spent elsewhere in terms of helping women? Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, I think it is really important that we're seeing this progress in recognising prevention, in working with children and young people. We wrote the DAY programme, I wrote it back in 2010. We've been equipping practitioners across the UK to do that work with young people, both boys and girls, across that time. I do think there is a mistake in focusing solely on boys and young men in a way that's neglecting girls and young women, that these boys are perpetrating this abuse to girls, to young women, to female teachers. We've had a school that has had strikes of teachers because of the misogyny some of those children are perpetrating in that school. So the idea that all this money is going into preventative lessons with boys does beg the question of what are you going to do to support the girls and young women who are being subject to this stuff online and in person. And while there is a support package in this VOG strategy, I do feel troubled that we're hearing about boys and men in a way that is, for once, placing responsibility on the perpetrators. But I worry about what happens if you don't have a baseline of support for those girls and women who are being subjected to harm. And there's an absolute decimation of those sorts of services. There's very little in place for children and young people who are being subjected to harm.
Okay.
And
so,
while this,
so what would we do? What would we do? What would you propose we do for the girls with this money that's being all spent on the boys at the moment? How do we help the girls and the females, indeed female teachers as well, as you wisely point out? How do we go about that?
Well, I think there is a question about whether we should be educating boys in isolation. Like, are these misogyny classes going to be boy only? Are there girls going to be in those classes? How are we going to navigate that? So the practicalities of what does it look like to only educate half of your population in any education system feels like a practical, like, what are the girls going to be doing while the boys are doing that? And is the money only going to go to those education classes that are for the boys? And what we're going to spend the money on, what we're going to do for the girls? So I think we do need to have cultural literacy. Like your previous guest was saying, this is about pornography, it's about the music industry, it's about films, it's about lots of stuff. And like you say, I think that focus on incel culture or Andrew Tate, I'm just not convinced that most young people in the work that we do, we hear from practitioners and young people themselves who just kind of is a bit eye-rolly. By the time adults know about it, most young people are past it in some ways. So, and I think we also just need to challenge this idea that there's been an explosion in misogyny, like it's just emerged all of a sudden, like there hasn't been this issue.
Well, we didn't have it yesterday, but man, it's a problem today.
Yeah. In some ways, this is just an extension of the problem we've always had, but it's been put on steroids because of digital culture. And so I think the question is, how do we do this? And the other thing that's missing from this VOG strategy is, what does it look for parents to be part of this? What does this look like? Because parents are the first educators of their children, and I'm not seeing anything in there about how we're equipping parents to work in a way with their children to equip their children. And actually, if we don't have parents on board, it doesn't matter how much you want to do misogyny work in schools. Actually, if those parents are like, no, my little Jimmy's lovely, and I don't think that they should be talked about this stuff because he's only too young, until parents are on board with that conversation, it's going to be very hard to get any traction with those young people or those children or with those schools.
Well, that's a really good point. So these misogyny lessons that they're proposing, it sounds like I'm saying that kids are going to be taught how to be misogynists. These lessons on misogyny, not in misogyny. Now that you come to mention it, I mean, wouldn't it be a good idea for boys and girls to be in those lessons?
Well, yeah, I think there's something about the normalizing for girls and boys of what it is to be a boy or to be a girl, what it is to be hypersexualized. You know, this isn't just about boys watching porn and thinking it's okay to be sexually violent. It's girls watching porn and thinking that's what sex should be like for me. So not objecting when it's painful, not objecting when it's humiliating. And so there is something about this is about putting the responsibility on those causing the harm, but it's got to be done in a way that says, as a culture and for all young people and for all adults, we're going to choose to create new cultural norms. And that's not just about what you learn in the classroom. Of course, classrooms are important, but this is about what they see on TV. This is about what's on their phones. And we are seeing some movement around things like these nudification apps. The Vogue strategy is saying they're going to be banned. So there are some steps around technology. But I think this idea and this focus solely on schools are on their knees in lots of ways. And so this idea that we can just shove a new curriculum onto it, schools who are really teachers who are really struggling to manage challenging behaviour. We've got massive amounts of absenteeism in schools after COVID with children at school refusal. You know, there's all these problems. And this idea that you can just kind of parachute in some resources without understanding the wider climate is challenging.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a last question. You know, of course, misogyny is a problem. We've got to do something about it. But what concerns me slightly is this is becoming a kind of coverall kind of culture that we now have, the sort of fashionable assumption that all men are bad, you know, that all the problems are down to men. As I was saying earlier, if you watch TV now, we don't have whodunits anymore, we have he-done-its. Every time you watch a TV drama, you know the bad guy, well, the bad person, the villain is going to be a guy. It's going to be a guy, usually a white guy, a middle-class white guy. But we've got to get this into proportion. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely accept we have a misogyny problem. But I think we have to be careful about not running away or not inculcating children in particular with the idea that all men are bad.
Yeah, I think this is a really big and important topic to look at. How do we talk about this in a way that is meaningful? The reality is the vast majority of women who are killed will be killed by men and men known to them. So this isn't about some kind of cultural conversation that isn't about the material reality of what men and women are living with. And let's be honest, men who are abusive are not living their best lives or happy lives either. So this is about making men's and women's lives better. And I think there is something about us asking questions about how we can pitch this and talk about this about human flourishing rather than demonizing anyone, because we're definitely not going to have bad boys on board if we're just saying you're all bad, boys, all men are bad.
Exactly right, Natalie.
That's got to be how we do this is really important. That's something we've been working on for a very long time to do well.
Natalie, a really good point. Great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Natalie Collins there, creator of the Day programme. That's an organisation that does preventative work with young people on abuse and exploitation. Let's go straight to the phone, shall we? On the same topic, let's talk to Danny in Richmond. Hi, Danny.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm all right. What would you like to say about this?
I just think teachers at school nowadays, they can't stop kids throwing pens at each other in a classroom. There is a level of respect with a lot of teachers, and throwing £20 million at something for something that parents should be talking to their kids about.
Yeah, that's a good point, Danny. Where are the parents in all of this? We seem to be saying, well, if we get the schools to teach the boys about misogyny, everything will be all right. What about the mums and the dads?
Well, I like that £20 million. That's enough to cut. That'll do it.
Yeah.
You can't put a figure on it. But what parents have any open and honest discussions with their kids about things that they see on porn, about things that they see as normal because that's what they've seen, and it isn't their fault. But I do with my son, and you know, he'll laugh and snigger. I don't know if I can say it on the radio, but who's having them conversations saying that you can't do them sort of things, you know, to women that they see on?
Well, I think, Danny, I mean, you're probably touching on it implicitly there. You know, you're obviously a good dad. You got your boy, and you will sort of almost organically pass on to him a respect for women, you know, so because you're a good dad. The idea that you're going to sort misogyny out by sitting 11-year-olds in a classroom and have someone lecture them about it, I think is optimistic, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. But when was this sudden rise in the misogyny? Because obviously it's always been around, but is it a recent thing? You know, for it to now be highlighted and to throw £20 million at it?
Exactly, no, absolutely, Danny, and I do think there's no doubt that social media has completely changed the landscape on this. Access to porn is a problem as well, but I worry, and again, you know, of course, nobody likes misogyny. We want it to be stamped out, but I do worry that we're falling more and more into the trap of just assuming all men are bad. And I think we've got to avoid teaching little boys that. That's a bad thing for them to be taught as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but I think you touched on it earlier on with, you know, immigration and people coming over. Women aren't seen as what the once were in England. And could that not be a massive contribution to the rise in misogyny?
Well, we discussed that. I mean, I said there are also many aspects to this. We should be talking about, you know, rap music, some of the lyrics, some of the videos that they make. I mean, are they misogynistic? They're not necessarily particularly complimentary to women. You know, it's worth taking in a discussion about Islam. You know, I mean, is it respectful to women to make them dress from head to toe and only even see their eyes? You know, is that respectful? I don't know, but it's worth talking about. Danny, excellent call. Thank you for ringing. Danny in Richmond there. When we come back, we're going to go to break now. When we come back, we're going to take some more calls. So stick around, get on the phone, 03444 99 1000. Let's talk. It's great to talk on Talk.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is talk.
Welcome back. Go back to the phones after the 3 o'clock news. We'll be talking about the migrant crisis. We just broke the news that 497 migrants came across the channel illegally yesterday. We've got a surge in asylum applications, 100,000 or more. It's out of control, folks. We're going to be talking about that after 3 o'clock. But first, let's go back to the phones. A lot of calls about the misogyny courses for 11-year-old boys. Let's talk to Dan in Liverpool. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Kevin. I think these misogyny courses are unfortunately going to breed a brand new generation of young boys who are going to run to the arms of individuals like Andrew Tate. And teachers aren't going to be happy with what I'm saying, but if you tell a load of young boys now they are evil, they are bad, just for being men, what do they expect?
Yeah, I do worry about this. I do worry about it. And I've got to sort of caveat this. We've got a problem with misogyny. There's no doubt about it. You know, the social media, the incel syndrome, Andrew Tate, rap music, so on and so forth, have created a culture which has a misogyny problem. That said, when you get Jess Phillips, who seems to think the only problem here is Andrew Tate, it's a problem. But Jess Phillips and the gang, they seem to, they're sort of in their DNA almost. Their knee-jerk belief is all men are bad. So what worries me about these misogyny lessons, and I don't think they're a good idea at all, I don't think it's the right way to go about this, but what worries me about them is that these kids, these boys, these 11-year-old boys would be told, well, right off the bat, you're a male. That means you're bad. That's not going to help, is it?
It's not going to help, and I just want to know, when was the last male role model that hasn't been accused of masculinity? If we look at James Bond, toxic masculinity now. Look at the deceased, and I do apologise, late James Whale. I guarantee you would have female presenters or people say, oh, he used to talk down to people. He's toxic masculinity, where, no, there has to be a fine line. And when are we going to, if it's going to be courses for men, are there going to be courses for women on misogyny?
You're right about that, Dan. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. It's like the word masculinity now is almost never heard on its own. It is always preceded by the word toxic. So masculinity now is seen to be automatically toxic. I say it's not. I say it's not. I mean,
I say it's not, and we're going to need, unfortunately, if we ever go to war with Russia, who's the first people they're going to send on the front line? It's not going to be the feminist men, is it?
Well, I think we do have troops now are gender fluid. You know, men and women are sent to the front line, so it is possible that women could be the first in the front line. And I suppose I believe that that's true, because I believe in equality of the sexes. But as I say, you know, masculinity is always toxic these days, and I think that is wrong. Dan, great call. Thanks for ringing, Dan, in Liverpool. Let's go down to Kent and talk to Louise. Hello, Louise. You want to talk about misogyny as well? What would you like to say?
Hi, yes. I mean, I've spoken to you before, and certainly you know that I've been involved with mental health. And
oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, hi.
Yeah. Now, what I was going to say was, I don't think it's right. They should be just focusing on the boys. I think this whole conversation should take place in an open classroom, so the girls understand where the boys are coming from, and the boys understand where the girls are from, because we put toxic in front of masculinity. But hang on, what about toxic femininity, which can be
toxic femininity? Yeah,
absolutely horrible. And you know, girls can misinterpret what boys want to do. We saw that terrible case in Cambridge where that student thought he'd done everything right with the girl, but then afterwards she was upset, told one of her friends. They all blanked him, and he then completed suicide.
Yeah, I remember that.
So,
yeah, terrible.
And we know that in the Me Too movement, one of the big problems I think the police were trying to sort out, they had so many girls talking before, they couldn't sort out what was right. So how many of those girls were...
Yeah.
I don't want to say not genuine, but...
Yeah. You're right, though, Louise.
Misinterpret things.
Totally. You are bringing up a really good point, that we seem to have created an atmosphere in which a lot of guys, like that poor kid in Cambridge, they feel like they're walking on eggshells all the time. They've been persuaded that masculinity, their masculinity, is a problem, and they're nervous around girls, and that is not a good thing. I'm not convinced that these misogyny lessons for 11-year-old boys are a good idea, and you're right. If we must have them, get the girls in there as well. Good call, Louise, as always. Thank you very much. Louise in Kent. As I said, when we come back after the news, the 3 o'clock news, we're going to be talking about the migrant crisis. 497 came across yesterday. It gets worse and worse and worse, so stay tuned for that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In half an hour or so, I'm going to be talking to Kinsey Schofield, our royal guru. There are reports that all is not well between Harry and Meghan. They're bickering, apparently. According to reports, Harry's desire to come back to Britain with his kids, which seems to be gathering pace because he's getting a review of his security arrangements, is not going down well with Meghan, who doesn't really want to come back to Britain ever again. She doesn't like this place. If she doesn't come back here, that will dovetail very nicely with our plans for her, won't it? So we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's talk about the migrant crisis. And net migration is to rise by 100,000 as asylum seeker claims surge. There's a massive surge in applications for asylum. This will mean that the overall migration figure in the medium term will leap from the current level of 204,000 to 300,000 after nearly 3 years of sharp fall. So it's going back up again, which isn't good. Let's talk to the Conservative peer, former Home Office Minister, Baroness Rachel Maclean. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Hello.
Well, first of all, this is breaking news. We've just heard that 497 migrants crossed the Channel illegally yesterday in small boats, which brings the tally since Saturday to 1,408, 1,308, 1,300 migrants since Saturday. On Saturday alone, 737 came across. So Labour, as of Friday, an MP called Tristram Osborne, he's the MP, one of the MPs in Kent, were boasting about, you see, 28 days without any migrants coming across. Our deterrence, the one in, one out scheme, is really starting to work. No. We had 28 days of stormy weather. Finally, a mill pond on Saturday. A mill pond since then. 1,300 migrants have coming across. Nothing is being done to stop this, is it, Rachel?
No, and we knew this would happen. I mean, and look, we lost the election. Our party lost the election over 18 months ago now, or something like that. And one of the key issues was migration. And that's why we had the Rwanda scheme, a robust scheme similar to what the Australian government have stood up, which has actually tackled their migration problem. But obviously the election was called and we couldn't implement that. And Labour came in and said, look, we're going to fix this. Those Tories were terrible. They didn't fix it. We've all seen that they haven't got a plan to do it. In fact, they've made things worse because they've loosened some of the requirements. They've made it yet more attractive. They really can't do what it takes to tackle this. There is only one solution. There's only one deterrent, and our party's been very clear about what we would do to actually tackle it.
Well, the first thing to do is to leave the ECHR, isn't it? I mean, that is the stepping stone or the foundation stone from which you must approach this crisis. I always say, a lot of people say, if we left the ECHR, we could solve the migrant crisis. It wouldn't solve it at a stroke. No. But it is absolutely essential. It's crucial we do that before we would be able to solve it. And Labour's insistence that they will never leave the ECHR, because basically they're a party of human rights lawyers, including the Prime Minister the Attorney General and indeed the Home Secretary. They don't want to leave the ECHR. So therefore, Rachel, they will never ever solve the migrant crisis.
They never will, and we see it time and time again. It's not only that we hear the stories that hit the headlines. The person that can't be sent back because his child won't eat chicken nuggets, an issue that I've been talking about more and more often, which is people pretending to be Christians all of a sudden so that they can't be sent back. There's people who discover that they're gay when they get here, so they can't be sent back. And of course, until you actually unpick all the laws that allow them to do that, and let's face it, take a much more common sense and robust approach to this, and also are honest enough to say, well, look, I'm sorry, not everybody that comes on a boat is a genuine refugee. Some of them are really just trying to come here because of our country and our generous welcome that we're giving them. I mean, you look at the pictures that are on your screen now. What we see is young men of working, fighting age. We don't see women and children. We don't see the vulnerable. We see people who are coming here because they want a better life and they know they can get one. And the idea that Labour was going to smash the gangs, we knew it was rubbish then, and it's been proven to be rubbish.
Yeah, well, then they moved on to the equally absurd one in, one out scheme, I believe, since it was launched in early August. But we've sent about 150 migrants back over to France. At least 2 of them immediately returned to Calais and came back to Britain on small boats. They've sent us I think it's about 80. Meanwhile, something like 10,000 migrants have come across the Channel illegally. The one in, one out scheme is a sick joke, isn't it?
It was never going to work. We could see that. It was just crazy. And again, we've seen subversion of things that were set up with good intent, such as the modern slavery scheme. I think the first person that came in the one in, one out, when he got to Britain, he suddenly decided he was a modern slave. So therefore, he sort of had to claim right to stay here. So all of this has to be tackled, all of it. The ECHR, the human rights, the modern slavery, the whole lot of it, all of it needs to be dealt with. That's what we would do if we get back into government. Obviously, unfortunately, we did lose the last election, and now we see things getting much worse.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to point out for reasons of balance, I'm not blaming you personally, but the Tories do bear a lot of the blame for what's going on now. 14 years of disastrous migration policies, disastrous, utterly disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, look,
but I will say this, Rachel. Labour have achieved the impossible, no mean feat. They've made it a lot worse. What do you say about those 14 disastrous years, though?
Well, I don't accept it's 14 disastrous years of this. I mean, look, we had. The Boris surge. If you're talking about two different things. Illegal. What you're talking about here is illegal migration, and the legal migration. Yes, I will accept that the Boris surge was very damaging for our party. But we've got new leadership now. We've got a new approach, and I think all of us have apologised for that, and we do recognise it was wrong, and it was not what the country voted for or wanted when we took back control in that Brexit vote. But when it comes to illegal migration, I will challenge you a little bit, because this was a new phenomenon that we saw, this sort of small boat issue. Previously, it had very much been in the roads and in the the Eurostar and in lorries and so on, because of Brexit and freedom of movement. When we closed down our borders and had more controls, it meant that people had to find another way. So it was a new phenomenon for us. We were then starting to work out what we needed to do. That's why we had the Rwanda deterrent. But obviously, before we could get it off the ground, literally, we lost the election. I still believe if we'd have actually got those flights going and got those people back to Rwanda, we actually could have tackled this crisis.
I agree with you, Rachel. I'll tell you what annoys me. Yvette Cooper's very fond of saying this. The Rwanda scheme was a disaster. It didn't work. No, Yvette, it didn't start. Didn't give it a chance to start. And I think if you want to go through the difficult process of trying to work out what of his many bad moves, Keir Starmer's worst move was, I think arguably you could say it was junking the Rwanda scheme on day one of his disastrous government, effectively flushing £700 million worth of British taxpayers' money down the drain. Disaster. There's no deterrence now, and still they come. Rachel, excellent to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. Baroness Rachel McLean there, Conservative peer and former Home Office Minister. I got a note from Paul, a text from Paul saying there's only one way to tackle migration: don't vote Tory. I think you got a point there. I think they've learnt their lesson now, but it may be too little too late. There's another thing you could say: don't vote Labour. In fact, if you've got a couple of days, I could give you a lot of other reasons not to vote Labour, but perhaps we'll leave that for now. Let's go to break, and we'll take some calls when we come back. 0344499 1000.
the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. You have the floor for the next 15 minutes or so. We're going to just take calls. I'll read a couple of messages because I've got a lot and haven't read any yet, so that's very remiss of me. Here we go. Paul says, I thought the online safety bill stopped boys seeing porn online. Are we saying it should be repealed as it doesn't work? Might as well, because it doesn't work, does it? If you tell kids you can't get at something online, they'll work out a way. That's another problem. When we spoke to Sanjeev, the paediatrician, earlier, and he said, we're going to ban boys, every little kids from social media. You can do that. You won't stop them. You know what kids are like. They're much better at social media and the internet than we are. I mean, they really are. They'll get round any laws, so that's just sort of performative, really. Here is... well, this hasn't got a name on it, but it's quite a good text we've received. Hi, Kev. Maybe we should teach girls that characters like Bonnie Blue aren't people to look up to. And opening OnlyFans accounts for money isn't something to strive for. I wish you'd have put your name on that, because that's very good. Bonnie Blue, of course, is the girl who sort of films herself having sex with 1,000 men in 20 minutes or something. You know, that's how she makes her living. And you're right. I mean, if girls are looking up to people like her, there's a problem. And if boys are thinking that's a normal woman, that's a problem. So a really good text there without a name on it. Amanda says, what a complete waste of time 11-year-old boys being taught about misogyny when some boys are living with misogyny at home, which is part of their culture. It's an interesting point. What we've got here, Joe tweets, sends me a message saying, can a right-leaning person quote Ricky Jones about slitting throats? Surely that's acceptable. If they can say the exact same words, then that's the line we can tread. Copy the left's rhetoric against them. That's Joe in Lincolnshire. I see what you mean. Well, let me tell you, if you use the exact text or the exact script of what Ricky Jones said, slit their throats, and you were talking about left-wingers, we've got two-tier justice here, folks, as we've been discussing. It's legal to be violently left-wing, it seems, but it's not legal to be violently right-wing, or indeed it's not legal to be right-wing, it seems. That's a problem. Let's go to Alicante. Let's talk to Tony. Hi, Tony.
Good afternoon. I don't know if I need to weep, cry. I don't know what I want to do right now. I'm standing here. I'm watching kids on the beach.
Don't cry, Tony. That's not masculine.
I tell you what. You know what? I'm watching kids on the beach playing football, volleyball, all those sorts of things.
Yep.
Boys and girls playing together, doing traditional things that boys and girls have done for millennia.
Yeah.
And do you know what? The problem we have in the UK is that we've eroded traditional values over 30 or 40 years. School teachers have lost all respect. The police force are now called the police service.
What is that about?
You know, but it's okay to walk around and F and blind in front of people. You can walk into shops and do what you want. This is a problem. Traditional values have disappeared. So in Spain, it's not saying we don't have misogyny. misogyny in Spain, but men love women and women love men, and it's unheard of where you see women being hit or physically abused so much in Spain.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you say, Tony, about traditional values being eroded. You know, I think I grew up in a period of time when the traditional values that you speak of were pervasive. You know, it was obvious that you didn't disrespect women. I think what has queered the pitch, as it were, what has made everything different is social media, access to porn. The world has changed, and those traditional values that used to implicitly teach guys, not all boys, but most boys, to be decent around women, that's disappeared.
I disagree. Let me tell you something. I grew up in the 70s and probably the early 80s. You know, we had porn. I mean, it was at a top shelf thing, but the point is, you know, imaginations were...
Couldn't get you, but you'd struggle to get it when you were 12.
Yeah, but the difference is here's the big difference. I think that this is about social values again. This is about parents, you know, keeping an eye on their kids and making sure their kids are doing the right things. Yep. And I tell you what, there's as much misogyny online, men bashing continuously. There's a recent...
But Tony, this is my point. Back when you're talking about 1970s or even before, a bit afterwards as well, there wasn't online. See what I mean? See what I'm saying? Online, social media, the internet has completely changed everything, and in that sort of transformation, traditional values have got lost.
But you had TV where you had lots and lots of traditional
the TV's not exactly the same as the internet. Now, when I was a kid, you know, I probably tried to get porn, but you just couldn't. Actually, I didn't try to get. I was never interested in that sort of thing. But you just couldn't. Kids couldn't get hold of it then. And if they did, it would be a dirty mag. It's not the same as what they get hold of now.
So are we saying that porn is to blame for everything?
No, I'm saying that social media and the internet has changed the pitch entirely.
So then that's what you do with it.
Those traditional values, Tony, are still there, I agree, but they have been dissipated, they have been diluted by the whole new electronic culture. I mean, I think we're on the same page, but slightly different. But listen, really good call, Tony. Good to hear that it's all good on the beaches in Spain. Tony in Alicante there. Let's go back to, let's take a break now. We'll go back to the phones and messages when we come back.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back to the phones just a second. A quick message from Richard in West Yorkshire. He says we should. Hi, Kev. He says we should no more need to have anti-misogyny lessons than we should have lessons teaching us not to urinate in the street. These are things our parents, common sense or instinct should teach us. We are not still cave people after all. Well, you say that, Richard, but I've got a degree. I went to university to study not urinating in the street. Unfortunately, I failed, so I got arrested yesterday. No, seriously, I think I got first-class honours in not urinating in the street. It won't be long, some of the crap courses they have at universities these days. It won't be long, folks. But I think I agree with Richard. This should be instinctive, it should be common sense, it should be a lot to do with the parents. I'm not sure lessons at school are the way forward, although probably just leaving it to parental common sense might not be enough. We do have a problem, I accept that, but you know, kids in class, this is how not to be misogynistic. Orwellian, as we said earlier. Let's go back to the phones. Steve in Nottingham. Hi, Steve.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. What would you like to say?
Well, I've just been obviously listening to you about these lessons for 11-year-olds, and I kind of want to flip the script on it a little bit. I founded a charity called Tough to Talk, which is a male suicide prevention charity, and we focus on the factors that often lead to thoughts of suicide. And we talk in schools and colleges to the students about this. And those boys, when they open up to us when we do these talks, are often telling us how they feel they can't speak up and learn about masculinity because they get closed down either by their peers because it's toxic or fragile, or they get the social media, the media, and the manosphere telling them how bad they are all the time.
Steve, exactly right. You know, and I'm worried. I don't know what form these misogyny lessons will take, but there must surely be an implicit danger that the boys will be inculcated with the idea that males are automatically toxic, that masculinity... You know, masculinity, by the way, is not automatically toxic, and yet we seem to have we've been dragged into that belief. But what worries me, and I think this is what you're saying, is we're creating a these misogyny lessons will only add to it. We're creating a generation of boys who are nervous as hell around girls. They don't know how to behave. They're treading on eggshells, and you know, if they like football and they fancy a beer, they're almost being told, well, that's wrong. That's wrong. Do you know what I mean?
I do. But how about we flip the script on these lessons? So rather than making them misogyny lessons, why don't we make sure that the people who are teaching these lessons are good male role models? And they go in there and actually they give it both sides of the argument about, listen, this is what you might come across as a young boy growing up to be a man. Okay, and these are the things, these are the positive traits that you are going to demonstrate.
Good point, Steve.
And these are the things you're going to be looking out for. So then you can stamp those things out. And then they can be learning those lessons about the bad things they might learn about women and about the feminine side as well. So how to protect themselves against those kind of things.
Yeah, no, Steve, music's my ears. Couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Great call. Steve in Nottingham there. Let's go to David in Kent. David, what would you like to say?
Oh, hi there. Yeah, on the BBC Homes website this morning, the story is boys to be sent on courses to tackle misogyny in schools. I know you've been doing it all day.
Yeah.
But the photo that's taken there is quite interesting because it's taken from the back of a class. It looks like from the backs of the heads of the kids are about 10 years old.
Let me tell you. Let me take a guess. They're all white kids, right?
Oh, we've done this before. Yeah.
No. I'm taking a guess.
They are, you're right, exactly.
I know the BBC.
And I said to them, I thought to myself, when did you last see the BBC have pictures from some schools where all the kids were white? I mean, they just jumped right out at me, and I thought, that's extraordinary, that is, you know.
Yeah, and that is it. That's what worries me about all of this. It is the sort of stereotyping of boys I mean, okay, in this BBC, of course, they're all white boys, but the stereotyping of boys and the automatic assumption that there's something wrong with their masculinity. This creates very nervous boys, and it creates a culture where we just believe that maleness, being male, being a man, is inherently kind of bad, and that I'm not sure that these misogyny lessons will in any way help that situation. They're going to make it worse, won't they?
They will. I think they do make it worse. It just makes everyone nervous and scared about what to say. And I think people, it is a danger of this just going too far, and also for the teachers as well. Perhaps rather than worrying too much about overdoing on the misogyny, which is, as you say, is a bit of an issue. Perhaps they ought to be more worried about the girls in their charge, seeing where at the end of the school day, do they go off in taxis with middle-aged men who are clearly not their dad?
Well, that would be something to worry about as well. But I just think, well, maybe if we must have these misogyny lessons, and I'm uncomfortable about the whole idea, sounds like child mind control to me, but if they must have them, I think surely it would be a good idea to have boys and girls in them.
I absolutely agree. I think someone was on before said they must have. What would the girls be doing while they were doing this?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'll tell you what the girls will be doing. They'll be in another class being taught how terrible all men are. So that is bad. David, excellent call. Thank you very much for ringing. David in Kent. Let's go to break. And when we come back, it's the great Kinsey Schofield, our royal guru, all the way from Los Angeles. Apparently, all is not well between Harry and Meghan. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
The Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. Watching and listening to Talk just got easier. There's now only one place for the home of common sense. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. At 4 o'clock, she'll be in to tell us what's coming up on her show around about 5:02. Britain's greatest living woman takes over the helm of the Good Ship Talk. She is, of course, the brilliant Alex Phillips. She'll be in about 25 minutes or so to tell you what she's got lined up for your entertainment all the way until 7 p.m. So that in a little while. But first, let's go over to Los Angeles to talk to America's greatest living woman. She is our brilliant, our unbelievable royal guru, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev. I love this show today. I learned a lot about you and your pursuits as a teenage boy.
Did you like my that I've got a first-class honours degree in not urinating in the street? Actually, I say that, as I said, I failed and I keep urinating in the street. I should have studied more hardly, you know. But there you go. Right, look, let's get to business. Let's talk about Harry and Meghan. Now, this is a very interesting story that you alerted me to. You know, we're not going to be silly here and go, oh, divorce is in the air. It's not that. It's not that. But something has happened.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. They're getting divorced. Bye. No, seriously. Harry apparently has reason. He's got reason to be like this. He's got serious optimism that his long-running campaign to be given armed police protection, cops with guns, when he comes back to Britain, will soon be granted. The government here in Britain have launched a review into security arrangements for Harry and potentially his family when they come back to Britain. Now, if he gets those gun guards, if he gets police armed protection, he's making it clear that he wants to bring Archie and Lilibet, his kids, back to Britain to sort of reacquaint themselves with the grandfather that they've hardly ever met, King Charles. So that sounds like good news. The problem, though, is, and this is being reported in America by at least one magazine, is that Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, doesn't like Britain and has let it be known that she doesn't really ever want to come back here again. So apparently there's quite a lot of friction between Harry and Meghan about Harry's plans to get the kids back to Britain. She's not keen on it. And she thinks also that Harry's being a bit naive in thinking that if he takes the kids back to Britain to see King Charles, everything, all will be forgiven. So they're apparently behind the gilded gates of the Montecito mansion shared by the gruesome twosome. There is some friction about this.
Yeah, it was described as bickering behind the scenes, bickering at home. And it's not just one, actually, publication that's reporting this here in the States. It's multiple publications that's reporting it in the United States. And look, we just saw Prince Harry alone in Aspen. You know, and we have a mutual friend that was on the field, Harry and I. I'm sure he would love to know exactly who that is so that he could cut them off. But I'm going to be careful in how I word this. But the mutual friend that was playing with him, that I had that was playing with him on the polo field, has told me in the past that Meghan hates when he plays polo, that she's really been a Debbie Downer when it comes to his social life. And they were disappointed because all of a sudden when Harry started dating Meghan, they rarely saw Prince Harry. And here's an example. You know, Harry wants to go play in Aspen. Meghan stays at home with the kids. So we're seeing Harry alone around the holidays. We're seeing him on the slopes with his friends. It's my understanding that his group of friends are thrilled when she's not around because she's allergic to fun and she doesn't like the things that they get involved in. So, you know, that's another aspect of it. But yeah, what you're reporting is basically word for word what you said is basically word for word what we're reading here in the States, that Meghan has zero interest in setting foot in the UK again. To her, it's a lion's den, a source said. She thinks Prince Harry's absolutely naive to see it any other way. She really just does not see the value in being in the UK, although you and I know that she does see the value ultimately in hinting, flirting with the idea of returning to the UK, probably these headlines circulating, because she monetizes her connection to the British royal family. Otherwise, no one would be interested in her.
Yeah, that's another interesting aspect to it. Essentially, Meghan has always let it be known, I don't ever want to go back to that country, Britain. She seems to think we're a nation of racists. She seems to think half the royal family are racists. I don't know where she gets that idea from, that we're all slave drivers and we don't like her. That might be true. So she doesn't ever want to come back. But there are also reports that because she's so reluctant to do that, people might be dangling very big financial offers in front of her. In other words, she, at the same time she's saying, I don't ever want to go back to Britain, and I'm not sure it's a great idea, Harry, that you take our kids back there. I think you're being naive if you think all will be forgiven if you do that. That must be set aside the fact that apparently she's also letting it be known, well, I will go back to Britain if the price is right, if there's some kind of big financial offer on the table. To which I would say, Kinsey, by whom? What for? Who would want to give Meghan a load of money to come to Britain? I'm not quite sure what she's getting at there.
Well, I think that we saw an example of this the last time she was in Britain. You know, she only went back to receive an award. I imagine that the organizers of that event paid for her and Harry's flight out there. Remember, she asked Jill Biden and Joe Biden for a ride back, and they told her no that trip.
That's right.
So, you know, just a classic example of the Sussexes freeloading, which we've heard so much about in 2025. One of my favorite themes throughout 2025 is Harry and Meghan using other people's private jets and other people's homes. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know who would be willing to give her something like that, but I think her last visit is an example of that, because she has loathed the UK since she left, but she did return previously to accept an award. And I think that those organizers helped pay to get them out there privately. And then we know that they had to stay longer than they anticipated because of the death of Queen Elizabeth. And the Sussexes asked the Bidens if they could ride home on Air Force One.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Let's talk about Meghan generally. I mean, she seems to be particularly frenetic at the moment. As we go into 2026, I think the question about Meghan is, what on earth is her life all about? What exactly is she doing? I mean, she seems to be doing a hell of a lot, and yet nothing much at all. She likes to look like she's looking busy, but then you think, well, actually, what exactly is she doing there? I made a list of some of the things that she's been, or that it looks like she's doing at the moment. I mean, she's sort of in a film. She's talking about producing a film. She's still taking pictures of the back of her kids' heads. She's starred in one of the most tedious shows in TV history, which you can still endure if you tune into Netflix right now. Perhaps the most extraordinary at all, she's apparently mulling over the idea of a potential deal with the tacky Kardashians. And so on and so forth. It's like, where is the direction here? Where is the direction here? Now, this film, they've just bought the rights to a film.
I thought of you. I thought of you when I read this headline, because where is Meet Me at the Lake? Where's Meet Me at the Lake? A whole lot of announcing, very few executions. These two love a press release, don't they? Show us what you've got. Stop announcing things. Actually, you know, Tina Brown, I can't remember how she'd put it years ago, but she'd said something about how they just are constantly announcing things, but they never follow through. And that really continues to define them into 2026.
Exactly right. And what do you make of... let me tell you about the film, by the way. So they bought the rights for quite a lot of money. I think it was about 3 years ago now, for Netflix, to develop the film of a best-selling novel called Meet Me at the Lake.
And actually, the rumor is that Netflix coughed up the dough to secure the rights. They were going to let Archwell put their name on it, though.
Yeah. Well, that was the story of romance rekindled by a chance encounter. They never made that movie, never even got into development, never got past first base. So that looks as if buying the rights to that was money straight down the gurgler, straight down the drain. They've now bought the rights, the gruesome twosome, Harry and Meghan, apparently, to a book called The Wedding Date. And the story is romance rekindled by a chance encounter. Do you see a picture building up here? Why didn't they make the original film of the book they bought about romance rekindled by a chance encounter instead of moving on to buying the rights to another book about the same topic? What is it? What are they up to?
What is the rekindled? Because everybody's saying that all of these books in some way reflect their own love story, which I'm sure that they're behind that narrative. But what's the first chance encounter? Is it Meghan sitting outside of Buckingham Palace when she's 15 pretending she's never Googled the British royal family?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Why don't you guys get your butts in gear and actually do something? Because another Carly Fortune book was purchased by Amazon, and I'm already seeing trailers for it, Kev. And it since Harry and Meghan bought Meet Me at the Lake, she optioned another book to Amazon, and they're already promoting it. It's been cast, some of it's been shot, and it's already being promoted on social media. So Harry and Meghan move at a snail's pace, or they're all talk and nothing actually gets done.
Yeah, and the wedding date purchase of the rights. So we're told that Netflix are in the frame again. I mean, I'm not. I'm not sure what.
I have goss on that. It's my understanding.
Hit me with it.
It's my understanding that they are dangling the carrot of a Diana documentary, in front of Netflix to keep Netflix on board.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I get that. And also Netflix, as we've discussed many times, they want to be hanging around just in case Meghan's ever available to tell the story of the divorce between her and Harry, should that unfortunate event unfold, of course. That's why I guess Netflix stays friendly with these two. We talked just now about her holiday special of With Love, Meghan. That's got to be the last of those awful programs, hasn't it?
Well, I just was talking about the cancellation of Boots, which was analytically was an incredibly successful show for Netflix. Yes, the Pentagon called it woke garbage. It's about a young gay man from Louisiana joining the military. But analytically, it was like it was in the top 10. It was in number 7 for Netflix's, original content all year long. Now, Meghan's content does not fall into the top 10 at all. So if they continue to create that program, I think people are going to pull their hair out, because there's no rhyme or reason for it to continue when Netflix is canceling legitimately successful programs. Why would you continue with Meghan Markle's program? It's critically slammed. It does not have an audience, and it has no personality at all.
Exactly right. And the holiday special, high hopes around that, didn't even make the top 10 in Netflix's charts. So an official flop, but they still seem to be nurturing some kind of relationship with Meghan and Harry. God knows why. But, we do know why, as you just said. Maybe a Diana documentary. That would be fairly compelling, and even more compelling, Meghan, My Divorce. That would be a bestseller, or that would pack them out on TV, definitely. Now, the backdrop to all this activity that we're talking about, press releases here, press releases there, we bought the rights to this, we're going to do that. The backdrop to this is, that I think she's trying to overshadow, is the still catastrophic publicity disaster of her approach to her father, Thomas Markle's life or death drama, over in the Philippines. The guy, he's 81 years old. Since she stopped talking to him more than 7 years ago, he's had 2 strokes, a heart attack, survived a earthquake, and a couple of weeks ago we learned he'd had emergency blood clot surgery, which then required the amputation of his leg. Well, we essentially know the story, that first of all she said she tried to send an email, didn't bounce back. She assumed it.
Desperately called around a hospital.
And then phoning around the hospitals. If you believe that, I've got some swampland to sell you in Florida. Absolutely unbelievable. But the upshot of this story, which is extraordinary, that her contact with her father in his hour of need, when he's in distress, potentially about to die, doctors said that he might not make it. The upshot of this is that Meghan's contact with him was to essentially send him a legal letter.
Multiple.
What amounted
he had to sign multiple legal letters to get a hold of a breakup letter.
Yeah, and what she said to him in this letter, this reconciliation allegedly, was, I can't talk to you because you talk to the press. I mean, that was it. Dad's.
And we only know that because someone from Meghan's team told the press.
Yeah, I mean, but doesn't she? I think she's so terrible at publicity, at PR, that I don't think she realises quite what a dark cloud that has cast on her image forevermore. People aren't going to forget this. I mean, Thomas Markle, Senior, 81 years old, he's still languishing in a Philippines hospital, and we're all saying, well, couldn't you pick up the damn phone? He hasn't changed his phone number since she was talking to him, so she could ring him. I mean, come on.
I think that she looks incredibly selfish in this scenario, and if you and I looked at a timeline, we can state factually that Thomas Markle Sr., aside from doing interviews about himself, because he did do an interview when he was in a Philippines earthquake to say, I'm here, I survived. People were worried about him. He's very high up in his apartment complex in the Philippines. I think if we looked at a timeline, we could confidently say that Thomas Markle hasn't done any media surrounding his daughter in years. What's it going to take? You know, and then if people are going to go, well, what about the interview he gave from his hospital bed? I'm sorry, but that's a man afraid that he's about to die.
Exactly.
Reaching out to his daughter.
Yeah,
desperately reaching out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I don't care what he's doing, what alleged crime he's supposed to have committed in Meghan's mind. Your dad,
but I'm just saying,
your dad could be dying. Pick up the damn phone.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I'm just saying, how long does it take to? How much proof does she need? Because for years, he did not speak about her. He hasn't really spoken about her since, I think it was a Channel 5 documentary. But for years, he hasn't spoken about her. So how many years does it take before she goes, oh, okay, he's not going to talk to the media anymore. I can forgive him now, or it's a safe space to go. But she's saying, I'm never going to forgive you. Yeah. I never want to reconcile with you. And then basically, in my opinion, lying to the media, saying, oh, no, I reached out. It's fine. You guys can stop talking about this now. You were reaching out to him to tell him, I don't want to talk to you.
Exactly right. I mean, that's what she did. Well, her father's at death's door after serious surgery, blood clot and leg amputation. Her attempt, or her alleged reconciliation attempt, or the reaching out to him, was to send him a letter saying, oh, just to let you know, I will never talk to you again. That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
But you know what? I throw it back to around this time last year, January 1st, 2025. Meghan takes to Instagram hours after Tiggy Legg Burke's stepson dies in a terror attack in New Orleans to announce that she's back on Instagram. She is wholly self-consumed. This is Archie's godmother, by the way, Tiggy. She is wholly self-consumed, completely selfish, and other people's problems, they're not her problem. She has an agenda, and that's to sell herself. So she's not worried about her dad, just the same way she wasn't worried about poor Tiggy, who'd lost a stepson the day she decided it was more important to return to Instagram.
Yeah, and we're told poor old Thomas Markle is absolutely devastated and shattered by this, that his daughter's response to his health crisis was to send him a virtual legal letter warning him she'll never talk to him again. Really nice. Before you go, Kins, let's talk about old Ginger Nuts, old Harry, a little bit, shall we? Because among this sort of whirlwind of frantic whirlwind of activity by Meghan and I guess Harry being carried along for the ride is this proposal, this suggestion that the two of them might get more and more involved with the Kardashians, partly to help Meghan's useless online store as ever, which I don't think will be here this time next Christmas, if not this time next week, the way it's going. But they want to get link up with the Kardashians because the Kardashians are very good at marketing. And this could, we're told, involve Harry getting involved, considering an unlikely partnership with Kim Kardashian to help flog her underwear brand Skims. So do you think he's going to stand there like in commercials with just her underwear on?
There's not enough therapy in the world. Yeah. After I witnessed something like that, I would be so... I would need therapy. I don't need to see Harry in underwear. Yeah. Harry he has Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's body these days. Like, go look at him on the polo horse. I'm worried about the polo horse. Yeah. Yeah, I don't need to see that guy in underwear. I don't care how much of a fox Meghan Markle thinks he is. But you're right, that is being reported. And when I talked to you about this, I was like, and the most shocking part of this, yes, we can see Meghan teaming up with the Kardashians. I've been saying it for years. There's pictures of Kris with Doria. There's pictures of Meghan with Kim. Yes, that collaboration could absolutely happen. And Kim is the smarter of the two. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, she's no fool.
Millions of dollars from her digital game, underwear, you name it. Well, we won't talk about the you-know-what tape, although you guys have talked about nudity.
Family show, Kenzie, family show.
Yeah.
But Kris Jenner, though, just before you, Kris Jenner is apparently very keen in return for them helping Meghan's brand to write Harry and Meghan into an episode of the Kardashians. If Harry ends up in a trashy reality TV show, that will be a sad end to his American dream, won't it? Is that why he came to the States, to end up in the Kardashians?
Look, the Kardashians are ruthless, okay? I'm telling you right now, whether Harry and Meghan want to be written into an episode of the Kardashians, they're already in an episode of the Kardashians, because the Kardashians will take advantage of all the media surrounding those pictures being removed on Instagram at Kris Jenner's birthday party. Yeah. That will be an entire episode of the Kardashians. You're right. The girls talking about it behind the scenes. And we'll actually get the real story when it airs on Hulu for the first time. Amazing.
Well, I don't often watch the Kardashians, but I'll watch that episode. Kinsey Schofield, how fantastic to talk to you. Have a fantastic weekend, and I hope I'll talk to you next week. Well, in fact, I'm determined to talk to you before Christmas, so I'll wish you a happy Christmas then. In the meantime, have a great weekend. The magnificent Kinsey Schofield there, and the magnificent Alex Phillips is in the room. How are you?
I'm magnificent, thanks.
That's it. Yeah. Bye. How are you?
I'm good, yeah. How are you doing?
I'm all right. What's coming up in your excellent show?
I'm going to be ranting about this whole misogyny
thing. Ranting?
Ranting. Do you remember, Kev? I feel we kicked off the whole international debate. Mm-hmm. I'm not even joking. I think we kicked off the entire international debate.
We kicked off.
What?
I'm sorry, did I say something wrong there? Carry on.
But we did, you know, when that clip went viral from Crosstalk, about the relationship between men from foreign cultures and the safety of women. Yeah. And that thing, it still circulates now. Yeah. But, you know, again, they're doing it like, oh, this is it. Women are going to be so safe from now on. Oh, great. Does that mean they're now going to use emergency legislation to turn boats around? Are they going to be saying to the migrants in the camps that you can't wander around streets?
Yeah, I should have done this, shouldn't I, in the last 3 hours? She's got the right angle here. No, you're right, because what's being said about these misogyny lessons, as if they're going to make any difference at all. It's Andrew Tate, it's incel.
Do you remember that ridiculous psyop from that blimmin' programme on, what was it called? The one with the little boy.
Adolescence.
Adolescence, that's it. It's such a psyop, like, this is what you should be afraid of. And then they kept talking about it. Have you seen the documentary? It's like, it's an act of fiction. It's not a documentary.
Keir Starmer treated it like it was real life.
I know.
Yeah.
And actually, it was based upon one incident in real life where a guy was obsessed with Andrew Tate, a little boy, and ended up stabbing a girl who rejected him. But it wasn't a little boy as portrayed in the film.
You're right. I mean, you know, that the incel Andrew Tate syndrome is definitely a part of it. We should worry about it. But what about, I don't know, the lyrics to rap music?
Yes.
Jess Phillips is not approaching that. What about the Islamic religion, which seems to me to turn women into second-class citizens?
Yeah.
What about the increased foreign culture that changes our attitude to women? I mean, all of this, Jess and the gang won't confront.
They won't touch it because when it comes to these leftists, nothing should be able to take away their right to shout the word racist as many times a day as they want, even the safety of women and girls.
Well, in your show, perhaps I'll give you a little tip here. You could get a little clip from Peter Cardwell on Breakfast this morning. So he had these two paediatrician experts about this misogyny, and he said to the woman, there was a bloke and a woman that said, what about rap music? The lyrics to some rap music is rather concerned. I can't talk about that. He said, well, why not? It is a factor, isn't it? I don't want to besmirch an entire culture. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no,
they
exactly.
won't confront the reality of
exactly.
this.
And yet the one that they kick, the one that they always abuse, the one